Okay, this is one of the worst podcasts I've ever heard. I am embarrassed to release this, I'll be honest. It's absolute disgrace. Obviously, my sound quality is terrible across the board. Don't expect it to get better. Just accept it right now, please. This is terrible. The sound, I'm so loud on it. So loud, and Kriss is really, really quiet. But it doesn't matter. You can just adjust it to Chris's volume because he talks for like 98% of the entire podcast. I mean, I keep calling it a podcast. It's just a conversation between two maniacs, really. Kriss is just, he's annoying. I mean, I'm annoying, but he's annoyed me. I've had to listen to this twice while editing. Twice. I was there the first time it happened. So the three times I've experienced this nightmare. I mean, he's interrupting me. Like he's sniffing when he's talking, he's breathing. It's like he's talking in the background while I'm talking. It's just he's talking at 100 miles an hour. I can't interrupt him when he is talking. I mean, I'm not saying I'm brilliant. I'm banging the mic. I'm eating at one point, talking. I swear, unnecessarily, just a shocking amount. I don't understand why. I'm not passionate about almost any of the things I was talking about, but I'm swearing about it. So yeah, you can hear me doing all sorts of stuff in the background. You can hear the fan from my computer, my laptop, and like I said, the entire quality is terrible because I don't know anything about audio stuff. So I'm just starting to learn. I'm just learning, everyone. But this is just an absolute nightmare. Having to edit these things is horrible. We'll get through this moment, this time space where we're like, I'm giving you the old podcast basically before we get to the new ones, which I would argue are at least 3% better. At least, I stand by that. I'll be honest. I stand by that. These are just terrible though, and we will get through them eventually. But they are a nightmare to edit, a nightmare to listen to, and I feel like I've had a brain hemorrhage or something. That scene where Neo gets kung fu downloaded into his brain, I feel like that, but it wasn't kung fu. It was Chris's personality. I feel sick. Anyway, I want Kriss to suffer through this. That's why I'm putting it up, really. I want Kriss to suffer. Listen to this, Kriss. I'm talking to you directly. It's just, I'm exhausted. 3 times. 3 times I've listened to this. Yeah, it was month 2 of lockdown. Month 2. So we hadn't really been having many conversations with people, so we were both pretty insane. Also, we're recording it on Discord, and it's absolutely terrible. It just keeps dropping out all the time. It just really adds to the general poor quality of the entire audio experience in general. I guess we do talk about some interesting topics. I think we just recently discovered QAnon, apparently, at this moment, and we were trying to make sense of it. Like, literally discovered it that day or the day before. We talk about lockdown, MCU, Vikings, history, other stuff. If you can be bothered, it's in there somewhere. That is my intro. Let us begin this nightmare.
That is the intro. I want to blow up Parliament.
Just that. I was just watching the beginning of that documentary, and then fucking, and then all of a sudden,
I was watching
voice
Guardians
came
of the Galaxy, and then I saw your thingy message. You said I'm connected, so I was like, okay, I'll reconnect.
That's it. How easy it is. Right, I worked out why that documentary's like that. It's because they're taking down all the COVID fucking information, any dodgy stuff, aren't they, off YouTube? And so they probably just put it up like in that format to stop them fucking noticing it, maybe, or something.
Maybe, possibly.
Yeah, but I'm interested to see
that's a little bit interesting.
What her take is on this.
Yeah, like I say that. Because it wasn't part of that, I assumed that was probably finished in, like February or something before this COVID really kicked in, and then
feels like it. Yeah.
You got to write and stuff, and the way the last one was written, especially, it's like if they're going to do it to that sort of quality, you think you have to sit down and actually do some research on it. And so yeah, it'll be interesting to see some figures and some facts and some information and so on and so on.
But it looks like this one is just some random, like kind of, excuse me, some random kind of, researcher, YouTube conspiracy theorist, so it's like another random, really. It's not like fucking, you know what I mean? It'd be weird if it was someone who was massive, well known.
Yeah, but like say this Q identity that seems to have started this thing and seems to be talking as if it's a singular or a group of people. I think that 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 has to be a thing. Whether it's a thing that's like just a fake and these are just
like
some
a
idiots in
hoax
fucking
on the
Russia or
internet.
something. Yeah, something like that, or hoax on the internet, or just some genius kid that was bored and just thought he'd start a revolution or start, for the stupid people. Could well be that. Again, that wouldn't be a huge surprise, but at the same time, it could be someone like, a grown-up genius who's like, this is why we're going to change the world, or how we're going to change the world. I'm out of backy pretty much. I've got like a joint's worth of crumbs left, but I've got weed. So it's the constant struggle of life. This is why you should legalize it so they can make them in like packs. It's like that's you get a 30-gram bag of backy and it gives you like enough weed for a 30-gram bag of
Yeah,
backy.
however much, yeah.
Joint, like a good equatable number. So you just go in and go, I need 30 joints worth.
Well, I've got
just
getting a bit low on backing myself, but I'm going out for a provisions run tomorrow.
I am also provision running tomorrow. I need some milk. I need some chocolate because I'm completely out of like sweetie things.
Yeah, I need a bunch of stuff.
Not that I've had a lot. I have like 2 sections of chocolate a day. So it lasts me like a week for a bar of chocolate, but it's my treat, you know what I mean? It's like and at one point, like a friend of mine brought me like an Easter hamper over, and she'd made some fucking Rice Krispie fucking thing and some else. It was just like a fucking. She made some like brownies or some shit, but she had like little chocolate bars and eggs and shit in there. So I've been just eating them randomly, but I'm completely out. I've got one cream egg, which I'm not a big fan of cream eggs because they kind of melt your teeth. So
yeah, you need a little treat, don't you? Like for fucking munchie.
Yeah, just something. Yeah, exactly. It's not. But the thing is, I literally have 2 bits. Just like I normally have my tea because I say I stop eating at 8 o'clock, and just before 8 o'clock I have a treat. So it like gets me through the rest of the night. Just like, oh, I had my chocolate, and now I can just chill out, and it leads to a nice kind of. I get to about this time. This is when I get peckish though. It's usually like just about an hour after. But I had a lovely stew for tea tonight, which my mum made yesterday, which I didn't eat because I had some pasta from the day before that I had to eat, so I thought I'd save this one to a second day. So I had a nice stew.
Nice, that's nice. Hearty.
Treat. Yeah, exactly. It was just, and mum's stew's like my favourite dish anyway. So
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I just feel like eat healthy or eat good. At least you're eating decent, and it'll be fine. But I can't wait to see some people at the other side of this, and especially because sometimes you don't see people regularly, or when you see someone regularly, you don't notice the change, do you? Now you see regularly, you won't have seen for fucking like 2 months, and then all of a sudden you'll notice that they're big fat fucks or whatever.
I think the next time you see me, you'll think I'm more in shape. I think I look more in shape. I've always been skinny, so it's quite difficult. Like I've literally put on like 3 pounds, but it looks I've put on like 10 pounds of muscle. Like I'm way thicker than I was. So next time I see you, I think like you might not. You might just be like you look the same. Because I go up and down anyway, and I've obviously times when I've trained and times when I haven't. But no, I feel like I say, super healthy. But I know most of the people I work with are going to put on 10 stone. You know what I mean? So it's like everyone's just going to go back fat as fuck and like healthy as balls and crazy. Still not having a conversation for the last 3 months.
I mean, people really starting to feel it now, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's definitely getting to the point where people are getting frustrated.
Even I was starting to feel a little bit frustrated the other day, just kind of like, because I've got my exercise routine and all this, and my back's starting to feel better now, and I'm starting to get to the point where I'm like, right, I kind of want to start getting out and getting back to normal and start doing things. But now I'm in the same boat as everyone else. I can't do it now either. So it's like I'm starting to feel a bit restless.
I'm finding doing the yoga's quite therapeutic because it's sort of counting the days. Because I've been doing it. Well, today was day 17 of the 2nd month, so I've done it 47 days, but I'm like this again, and I'll be out of lockdown. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I know that like I can just get through that. I'm halfway through my sort of like struggle with it sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of like, if I get through this 30 days, by the time I've got this 30 days, I'm going to be closer to the lockdown, and then it's like I can start another task or whatever. Or and I've tried to, I did like started doing weights the first month, and the second month I upped it a little bit, and then at the end of this month I'll up it a bit more just before I get back into it. But it's just something it's literally just a reason to get up. For a couple of hours, and like rather than, because like I say, I'd be happy to sit in bed and play computer games for 3 months, but short of having a broken arm, I can't justify that. I'd go, but I've started to get a little bit bored and a little bit, like I say, going out to the shops is quite a nice, like, it's just my first, my only walk. That's the only thing. I'm doing lots of weights and stuff, but I haven't walked anywhere in fucking 3 months. I still haven't gone for a run because I fucking hate running.
Yeah, I do.
Because I'm a lazy bastard. I hate it. I hate running. Hurts my knees, gets my chest all sore. I feel like shit. Never enjoy it. I've run 10k and I've never got to the point where I'm like, oh, this is starting to become fun. The whole time I was like, this is awful.
Hell.
This is awful. Yeah. And then I got to the end, I'm like, can we stop running now? And I was like, oh, you did really good to the end. I'm like, I just wanted it over. You said once I get to that fence, it's finished. I get to that fence. Like, I probably went on a full day. Like, I gave it all. By the time I got to the fence, I thought I was going to throw up and it fell over. But I was just like, right, we're done, aren't we? We're done, right? It was like, yeah, we can walk home from here. I'm like, cool. It was like 9.6k or something. I was like, that'll do. Yeah, never did I once get into the zone of like, oh, this is cool. I can meditate. Yeah, no, not once. Not once. I can do that when I'm walking, but not when I'm running.
Yeah, I just find there's too much going on. You're running.
There's too much to think about, but if you focus on it, it goes wrong. Like I always try and focus on my breathing, but then after a while, I'm like, I've forgotten how to do it. It's like I've come off, I'm like my pattern's gone, and then I'm like, am I breathing properly? Am I not getting a proper breath? I didn't get as good a breath that time as last time, like, and then I'm like, how much time's passed? It's like 12 seconds. Fuck. Like, and I hate it when people are like, you should come for a run with me, and I'm like, yeah, but I can't run very far. And they're like, oh no, you can come for a run. And after like day 2, you're like, do you want to just go for a run? And I'll walk behind you, because it's like you run for 20 minutes and then go for a 2-hour walk.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not great at running. I don't like it.
Yeah, never been
that's why I
with
did martial arts, so I don't have to be chased.
Yeah, I guess that's it, isn't it? But yeah.
I'm on a bicycle.
Doing what?
I said I'm alright on a bicycle. Good on a bicycle. It is raining here. It's lovely.
Oh, there we go. The rain's finally come. They said storms are coming. Storms.
Oh.
And it's going
to
get.
This is what I think. It's like I think people are crazy in their own house and stuff like that. But it's nice when it's hot. But obviously, hot builds tension. But then when it's wet and stuff, people are just at home. They can't go out. They can't exercise. They can't, and they start to like be like, oh, it was so hot last week, and now I'm just bored, and like I need to go to work, and they start to worry. And it's all like everyone worries on a rainy Sunday. So,
yeah.
Just
that's it.
Contemplate too much. It just gives a different feeling. I love the rain, especially around here. I just look out the window and just like it's beautiful.
Like summer rain. It's awesome.
Yeah, I do. I like summer rain.
Yeah,
I love it when it's fucking super storms though, especially around here, because especially on my mum's boat, because it's all windows at the top. It's just like 5. I mean, it's just like a 360 view of the world. Sitting here with the lights off, just like watch especially thunderstorms. It's fucking incredible. I think me and Gil did it once. We just sat there and it was like the sky was like, I'm just like, this is fucking awesome.
I absolutely love thunderstorms, like lightning and thunder.
Yeah.
Like some people scares the shit out of them. I love it.
I love it. Now there's that place, I can't remember where it is, but it's like 200 and something days of the year there's just thunderstorms like all night long.
It's just that fear, that visceral fear you get from it. It's just kind of like, whoa, that was amazing. You can feel the power. You can imagine how people believed in gods and stuff. If you like lived in ancient Greece and you're fucking watching thunderstorms.
People like Tesla and Edison China are like, how do we harness that? You're like, you crazy bastards. You know what I mean? So no, it's fascinating. Yeah,
that's it.
Fire the gods.
That's it.
Yeah, no, it's insane. But then I don't know how plugs work. I don't know how electricity works. I don't know how it's like if someone said like explain how your telly works, I'd be like, well, like press this button, it comes on. It's like, yeah, why does it come on? What turns it on? I'm like, I tell you what.
Look,
watching sorry, just on a side note, watching the Marvel films.
Yeah.
Some of the one-liners in that I'd forgotten about were amazing. Like when he opens the box and he's like, "Tell me what you see, Cap," and he's like, "It seems to be powered by electricity."
Yeah.
I mean, it killed me.
That was
Absolutely
great.
killed me. I was like, I totally forgot about that line. But there's loads of lines like that where you just like the throwaway lines where you're like, that was like, you could see that was quite funny.
Yeah.
It seems to be powered by electricity.
Yeah.
Well, some
You're
electricity.
not wrong.
It's like you're not wrong. Yeah, no, like I say, there's a couple of lines like that where you're just like, that's fucking so good. They're so good, and honestly, watching them chronologically, it's been more enjoyable watching some of the films that I don't normally like.
Yeah.
Like say, like Iron Man and Thor. It's like they really fit in, and it's like it's a nice jump from like Thor 2 came after Iron Man 3. So you watch Avengers, then Iron Man 3, then Thor 2, and then it went into Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2, before like the second Avengers. And I've obviously watched them like that in that order, but I watched them at the cinema 3 months apart. I've never just gone straight into the next one.
Yeah.
I'm watching like 2 a day. And it's been really fun to do it because they're and obviously I've seen the next film where they tie into some of the stuff in this film, and yeah, it's really good. Really enjoyed it. Really enjoying it. I'm looking forward to seeing more of the chick in Thor, more of what's her face, chick from Star Wars, his girlfriend who's
Natalie Portman.
Natalie Portman. Yeah, Natalie Portman. Yeah. Like after watching Thor 2, I was like, oh, I'm actually looking forward to seeing Natalie Portman in the third one. Whereas in the fourth one, whereas after 3, I totally forgot she was even in it.
Yeah.
But I didn't like. She's like the main character in 2, and then she's just not in 3 at all. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing her as female Thor because there's little bits like nuanced bits when she goes to Asgard when you're like the way they're talking to her and stuff. It's like she's gonna become Thor one day. Yeah.
Nice.
No, it's very cool. It's very, very cool. Sorry to take us off sideways with that.
No. I think I wouldn't mind doing a bit of a run like that myself, actually.
It's like I say, it's good.
Something to
It's
do,
good. But I mean, obviously, like I got to Iron Man 2, I'm like, should I just skip this one? I was like, no, I'm going to skip the ones I've seen because I want to see how it ties together. And I thought I don't watch a lot of Iron Man 2. I've only watched Thor 2 maybe twice, and I think the first time I didn't remember any of it, and the second time I was kind of half watching it. So actually watching it to watch it, I was like, oh, there's some quite good bits in it. There's a bit where because in that one as well, like Heimdall is kind of on Thor's side, and you see their kind of relationship build, and you see the Warrior 3 quite a lot, or 2 of them, and Sith quite a lot, and there's that weird like love triangle thing, but that's all kind of forgotten in 3 and now, but like that will come back into 4, so to Thor 4. So yeah, no, it's good. It is good. And like I say, I'm looking forward to watching Age of Ultron because I really liked Age of Ultron, even though it got slated a lot. I thought the whole I like it because it's a comic book. Like I think too many people make it too much of a film, and I'm like, no, it's like they make it like comic books. That's what makes it so good.
Well, I watched that like a couple of weeks ago, actually. Age of Ultron.
Yeah, I think I remember saying actually.
Yeah, and just kind of, I don't know what it was. I just kind of liked something about it. I kind of like because it's the one I've seen the least. I think because it's not as generally as good.
Yeah,
I think that's probably what I quite like about some of those, or I would like about doing a run like you're doing, because it's like they're not fucking like amazing, and they feel like, you know, like Thor 2. I haven't seen that a lot myself either.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like it's almost like I haven't ruined it by seeing it 1,000 fucking times like I have with every other film, you know, even though.
See, it's quite good because as well watching it, like I've noticed with Cap, like even from like the first Avenger, like the original Captain America 1 film, he's always been the guy that kind of goes against the rules and stuff, which I never really noticed because he's always seen as like the rule, you know, like follows the rules and doesn't swear.
Does his own rules.
Because that's what the joke they make, because he's old-fashioned and polite and a gentleman.
It's whatever his morals are.
Like the general, yeah, it's always a moral code sort of thing. And so it's like everything I've watched so far keeps reminding me that it's like a big setup to Civil War.
Yeah.
Like it even feels like it was like they always had Civil War in mind. It's like it, and it's quite cool watching that now because at the time obviously you can tie it backwards, but when I'm watching it like forwards chronologically as it happens, I'm like, I can see how like it's going to do it. But like I said, I've not seen a lot of Captain America 1. I watched that again, which I quite enjoyed. Again, I think I only see it twice. I enjoyed that a lot more this time.
I think it's
grown on me a lot, that one, because that was one of my least favourites to begin with.
I think it's a lot nicer because it's like World War II, and it's got that. It's all set apart from the other things and has its own sort of feel to it as well. And
plus, it's nice watching like that as the first film you watch, knowing that in the last film his story finishes. It's like when you first start watching Iron Man as well. I was watching it knowing that I've seen the end of his story.
Yeah.
And it was really cool because I'm thinking and say Iron Man, especially Iron Man 1, 2, and 3 are really good because you've got them, but then you've got Infinity Wars and Endgame as well, and Spider-Man, where it's like his story finishes there, but that's not the end of his story. Like the actual true story of Iron Man is after that, and I'm sure there's lots in between. And it does feel like there should be lots in between that as well, because Iron Man 3 finishes just after Avengers, and then it's like there's nothing until Avengers 3. Or 2 and 3, But yeah, it's like Iron Man's still got loads more story, even though his 3 films are finished. But there's loads of stuff in my. I still think Iron Man's probably my favourite trilogy of it.
Well, most of Iron Man's story took place from after Iron Man 3. It's like Civil War onwards, and exactly. You got all his major parts.
Because it's Civil War, and then Infinity Wars, and Endgame, and Spider-Man. So he's in more films after Iron Man 3. than his own standalone films. He's in 5 films that aren't Iron Man.
Yeah.
But only 3 films that are Iron Man based. So yeah, it's quite interesting. But yeah, his story is really good to watch as well, because watching the first one again, you see loads of nuanced stuff that later on becomes like Iron Man-y stuff. And he says Iron Man a lot too. He says it at the end of each film, and I'm like, oh right, it's like I thought he would just never said it that first time when it was because that's what it's always referenced to, like the press conference. But yeah, he says it all the time. And I also really like Gwyneth Paltrow as Pepper Potts has really grown on me as well, especially watching Infinity Wars when she becomes a badass, and then seeing her the first time he puts a suit on her, and the first time he flies with her, and the first time you see her when she's a bit of a bubbling idiot, to the end where she's like the CEO badass and she's telling him what to do. It's quite good. Like you say, there's lots of little bits in it which I've really enjoyed that are just especially say with Captain America and Iron Man especially, because Thor's are a bit up and down. I think once I get to Thor 3, that's when I'm going to enjoy it the most. But I'm looking forward to seeing Age of Ultron and seeing them all back together and seeing the Hulk and stuff. So, yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I'm glad I started doing it because I was just like, it's all on Disney except for Spider-Man, but I can find Spider-Man at Prime as well. But I've also watched Spider-Man 1 and 2 quite a lot recently as well. I've seen them a lot. I really like the Spider-Man films.
I do. I think they're brilliant.
This new ones, I think they're awesome. Yeah, I really liked the way they did Mysterio. I really liked the way they did the Falcon. I think Tom Holland is Spider-Man now.
I think just what I like as well though is
a bit taller and gangly. But
yeah, potentially. Yeah, I know what you mean, but I think he's just nails it. But yeah, I think as well. Nice. Oh, yeah. It's nice that it's kind of like he's in. Obviously, you got Spider-Man 1 and 2, but then it's like he's in fucking. Civil War, and then he's in the Avenger movies, and it's just kind of cool to think fucking hell, even he's in 3 movies that's not even his fucking films, the more films that aren't his solo movies, so it's kind of I suppose they all are really, aren't they?
Well, yeah, it's like Thor and Iron Man. He's like one of the main 6 really, but he's just but he's had a big push later on, whereas Black Panther's only in 2 of them. Well, 3 if you count Endgame, but only for a little bit in Endgame. But yeah, like I said, there's it's quite good because after Guardians of the Galaxy, the films I get less. I've seen them less because I must have seen Iron Man 10 times. Originally.
That's what I mean. It's like you've watched it so many times in the build-up over these 10 years.
I watched. I still stuff like when the first time he meets that guy, and then knowing that he definitely meets him in Iron Man 3 when he does the flashback, knowing and seeing that this time around, I was like, I must not have seen Iron Man 3 since watching Iron Man 1 or something. They all forgot about it, but and then watching it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's that guy again. Let's call back to this. And there's so especially as you get later into the films, you realize that half the references are now callbacks. And you're just like, oh wow, let's come back to this thing. You start getting geeky about your own watching of it that was only a day ago or something. It's quite, like I say, I'm really enjoying it, especially as someone who likes Marvel and to have 25 Marvel films.
To have this,
have 25
it's
Marvel
incredible.
Films would have been,
it's just incredible though to have this undertaking took up they took it up fucking 10 years ago, and it's been completed, and obviously it's still got somewhere to go with the new generation.
By the end of it.
That's it, but it's just amazing to think we got those 10 years of movies, and they were all just pretty much spot on. None of them was shit.
Oh no, they still hold up. Even say Thor 2, some of the scenes in Thor 2, especially in Asgard, are fucking awesome. Like when they take Natalie Portman there, and they do kind of panoramic views and stuff, and some of the actual cuts and stuff, they still look great.
But do you not think
the film's a bit up and down?
Do you not think though,
It's a
even
good.
like
Sorry, go on.
it takes a lesser film like that, just having it as part of this massive universe, it just elevates it even more, because
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you can
But I
watch
also
something
think,
that's
in
not as good.
hindsight, watching that is like Loki's. That's Loki's film. It's
Mm,
Thor 2 is Loki's film. Obviously, Thor 3 as well. He's amazing, but then he gets killed off in Infinity Wars. But he's amazing in Avengers. But then, like Thor 2 is like it's like a double act. It's not a Thor film. It's like a
yeah,
Thor and Loki film. That's
yeah.
what they should have called it: Thor and Loki, or Thor,
Mm,
Loki's world or something. Because that's what it feels like. It feels like more of like it's his study. It's
mm,
like the film's all about his redemption sort of thing, or his potential redemption, and then like a turn at the end. But he seems to be like that's the first time you see him as a good guy rather than just a fucking maniac.
yeah.
Um, or see some light of the person he was before, sort of thing.
Mm,
But yeah, like I say, it was one of the ones I watched. I'm like, actually, I quite enjoyed that. There's some quite cool bits in it. The whole bits with like fucking England when they keep going back to the crazy scientist in his pants and stuff. That's the stuff that I felt like they could have just left out. They could have just had him fight in England and
mm,
in on Earth. But yeah, when it kept going back to this weird side story of like this crazy professor in his pants and this love triangle between her assistant and um, what's her face, I was just like, I don't really care about that. I'd rather know about all the weird sci-fi crazy worlds.
yeah. I
But no, it was good. It was interesting.
it was a Christopher Eccleston as well, and he was the villain as
Yeah, it's the weird dark elf.
Dark Elf, whatever his name was. I can't remember now.
Yeah, I don't remember his name. Generic bad guy name, Dark
Yeah.
Elf.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
yeah,
they were less interested in side bosses of the Marvel Universe, definitely.
yeah. No, it's cool to do runs like that. Did you say you'd seen that Last Kingdom?
No,
No,
I know
yeah,
what you mean. I know what it is. It's the guy with like it looks like Game of Thrones, but like
yeah,
he looks a bit. Yeah. I know
yeah.
exactly what you mean. It's on
It's
Netflix.
yeah. I mean, I can't remember who I was talking to then, but fucking hell, I watched that and I was just like, that was brilliant. But I've just banged like 4 fucking seasons of it, like in like the last fucking pretty much 3 to 4 days, like But it was ace though, like really good fucking.
Is it good? Is it actually good? Worth watching? Yeah.
I really like it. Yeah, I thought it's
Oh, okay.
it's well worth a watch. In fact, like I mean, it's kind of
As good as Vikings, as good as Game of
yeah.
Thrones.
This is the weird thing. I was thinking about this. It's probably not Game of Thrones sort of quality,
Uh-huh.
and obviously it's
More
hard
Viking quality, like season 1.
Yeah, I mean, like I said,
Yeah.
it does look pretty cheap in the first season, but like it's makes more sense than Vikings. I found a lot of the time when I'm watching Vikings I often found like I have no idea why Ragnar did something, and it's kind of a bit trippy.
Because it's Ragnar, motherfucker. He can do what he wants.
It's a bit
He
trippy
just
though,
has some crazy vision and then just fucking murders some guy because
Yeah,
it's Ragnar. He can do what the fuck he likes.
I mean, but this was a bit more kind of straightforward. I really like it though. I really did. It's grown on me a hell of a lot, and he's a really good character. And so I'm just happy that I had 4 seasons or something, and there's another season
Okay,
coming.
that's cool.
So.
I'll check it out then. I'll check it out. Yeah, because it's come up a couple of times, and I'm like, it's come up on Netflix. I'm like, it just looks like a knockoff of, like, say, Vikings or
Yeah, that's what I thought.
that
But
one, whatever the one that Jason Momoa did when he's like
I've just started that as well, like, but I
poacher.
kind of was a bit
That
like
was cool. I quite liked that. I quite enjoyed that. By the
half
time I
in the
got
mood
into
for
it,
it though.
yeah. I just kind of watched a couple of episodes and it got me into it, but it took a couple of episodes. But Momoa is quite a charismatic person to watch. He's quite an interesting person to watch. He's a big scary fucking Samoan motherfucker.
Yeah, no, but this Last Kingdom was. I'd recommend it. Yeah, I've had a couple of people recommend it, and yeah, it's very good. I liked it a lot, and I sort of like it a bit more than Vikings actually, just because it's a bit more focused in a weird way. Vikings can be a little bit rambling, and at sometimes, and obviously it's a bit weird once Ragnar dies, and you just kind of left.
Yeah, but it gets good then, man. With all the battle, I watched it like the last. Well, I'm up to date with it, and I really liked all the stuff with the kids and stuff because it took me like maybe half a season because it was like Lagertha. I'm like, I can watch Lagertha, that's fair. And then she's dying off, and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
So I liked it. So yeah, no, I did enjoy it, but it's interesting how they can just kill off like the Jax character of like and then carry on the season. But I do feel like it's the one season I was actually like I could watch Bjorn's story is awesome, and like there's still loads of like unfinished bits, and it felt quite realistic as well. It felt like like it was about the Vikings. It's not about Ragnar. It's just he happened to be the badass, and it's quite interesting how like the ones that started off as like kids, how they aged them over. I like the fact that it jumps a couple of years, and then it's like, like they're like Bjorn's old now, and there's now younger people coming up, and you're like, oh, who's going to kill him now? Yeah, so it's quite. I like I say,
it's very similar actually. This Last Kingdom too. That actually, like, there's quite a lot of stuff like that in it.
All right, cool.
Yeah,
I'll give it a watch.
Definitely
Sounds
recommend
like
it. Yeah. Like I said, it's a little bit more focused than Vikings, like but there's a lot of good battle stuff in it as well. Like I said, it gets better every season with like the quality kind of, but it has a sort of weird feeling to it in that you get like everything's kind of a little bit shit, but you feel like that's what it probably was like in the Middle Ages, like everything just kind of looked shit. Everyone looked crap.
I saw something the other day where it was like a tapestry, and it was saying like this duke defended his kingdom with 47 men and 8 horses or something like that, and it was talking about this like ancient battle in like I don't know 1400s or something. But it was like like you think about these epic battles of Game of Thrones, but this guy had like 40 dudes, and some other guy had 40 dudes, and it's had this like massive rock, and then went, it's my kingdom, fuck off.
No, that's what this is like.
It wasn't like they had armies.
It's like they raised just like peasants.
10,000 men.
Yeah, and they'll have like they'll have like fucking like the house guard or something. It'll be like 10 dudes who could know how to fight with a sword and have swords, and then like the rest of the army will be like 40 peasants with like rakes and fucking shit. And like that's what this is like though. But it'll be like they'll raise an army, and then there'll be like fucking 100 dudes, and then if someone's actually got like 1,000 men or 2,000 men, they're like, fuck, like the shit in one, like, it's just like, so it's actually quite realistic, like,
That's quite cool. That's interesting. I like that.
Yeah, but it's kind of set
sounds good. I'd watch
like the Saxons and the Danes in Britain and that, and it's kind of cool getting in and knowing the history of Britain as well, like, because it's all like Mercia and all the old kingdoms in Wessex and that, and
nice.
So it's the kingdoms that it's sort of the kingdoms that they're dealing with in Vikings, in the later seasons when they come over to England and that. But I never really got a sense of where they all were in relation to each other. But in this show, I've really got a sense of it. You can
understand it more. That's good.
Yeah. They sort of
like. Obviously, I know a bit about history, especially the Vikings stuff. But yeah, I did find that in Game of Thrones where like someone. Wessex. I'm like, where the fuck was Wessex? That doesn't exist anymore. Was that Sussex or Essex?
Yeah, like Mercia, the Kingdom of Mercia is basically just the middle of Britain. Like, and I'm just like, now I know that.
North of Britain, at that time, the north of Britain wasn't because like in Vikings,
Northumbria.
They say they attack York. Well, no, it wasn't even Northumbria. It was known as
Danelaw.
Second, it was known as. Oh, what the fuck's it called? See, this is part of my commentary.
Mate, you'll love this, mate, because half of the fucking series takes place in York, and like they keep going back. Cool. They go back to like the different towns and cities, but they'll have like the old name will pop up on the screen, and then it'll like sort of transform into the modern day name, what you'd recognise it as. Like so.
That's cool.
But then it'll say the Kingdom of Mercia or the Kingdom of fucking Wessex or wherever the hell it is. Like And,
nice.
So it's quite cool. So they go to York a couple of times, and and it does have an ancient name. I can't remember what it is, but yeah.
It's Briganti.
But in this, it's like Northumbria is like the sort of Northern Kingdom, and everything above that is like fucking just Scotland. You know what I mean? It's just fucking tribes of Celts, and they're just like, oh fuck. But it's set in a time when it's like kind of half the kingdom is like controlled by the Danes, and half of the kingdom, the other half is like there's 3 kingdoms of like Saxons who are like Mercia and all that. Like so, it's like it's about like Alfred. It's this one. I mean, I think I was trying to gauge. Is it the same? They mention Ivor the Boneless in it. It's like one of the characters is like a son or a grandson of Ivor the Boneless. So I'm assuming it's set like fucking about 100 years after Vikings.
It's part of like Vikings. Ivan the Boneless did invade York. It was the guy, because I went to the York Viking Center a couple of years ago with my brother's wife. Yeah, it was saying like it was Ivan it was the dungeons actually. It was Ivan the Boneless.
He's
Was
in
yeah
the,
the one that
he's in
sieged
York
York
in
and
like
destroyed
season
it. So.
5 or something, isn't he? Like that's where he is.
Yeah, no, totally, yeah.
But,
Obviously, Ivan the Boneless was like they don't know if he was actually boneless and the cripple and shit like that.
Yeah,
I think he was
it's
just
the
a
name.
dude that was called Ivan the Boneless. But it makes for good telly, especially with that guy playing it. He needs to be like a supervillain or a superhero.
I've seen him in
The
something
guy who
else. I can't
plays
remember what it
Ivan
was
the Boneless,
recently.
he's fucking awesome.
What do you call
He's
it?
amazing in that.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, fucking this. So they talk about this. They mentioned him in one episode, like kind of that. There's
That's cool.
so one of the Danes was descendant of him, or like so. I assume it's set like about 100 years afterwards or something. But after Vikings, the time period of Vikings, I guess they've already settled in Britain, and they've fucking got a massive like horde of Vikings just constantly in Britain. I assume it's all the fucking settlements that Ragnar set up and all these things, you know, in Vikings.
Well, there was the Saxons and the there was loads of there was a fucking like there's like Anglo-Saxons and the fucking Vikings and the Nords and all that shit. There was loads of different fucking tribes coming through.
So that's
like, especially around York and our area. There was like all the Battle of 1066 and shit. That all happened here. I'm guessing loads of them settled here at the time, and some of them stayed after the battle, and some of them disappeared. And you know,
it's Hastings,
just like anything.
It's Hastings in York or up there, is it?
No, Hastings in London, but the Battle of Hastings was 1066. But before that battle, King Hardrada attacked the north. He attacked York. He attacked Stamford Bridge, actually. He had a battle in Stamford Bridge, and that's where the story of the Viking who stood on the bridge and defended it against like a whole army of people. It was just like one big fucking berserker dude held a whole bridge and let his army retreat. And then they won the battle there. And then they marched down to Hastings, like in like 2 weeks, down to London. And then got their asses kicked. So they just marched for 2 weeks, and they just turned up, and they just like got fucking annihilated.
Well, that's what I like about
because obviously they just marched for like 500 miles in 2 weeks or something.
Well, that's what I love about all strategy and stuff. That's what I like about this Last Kingdom is there's a lot of that sort of stuff in it. They talk about battle strategy quite a lot, and like and maneuvering and all this sort of stuff, and it's kind of cool to hear about that kind of stuff.
That's pretty sweet.
But I guess it's almost like a companion piece to Vikings, I guess, because it's like set after it in a weird way,
Yeah, well, it's like there's a guy that I work with that's like a big history buff, and I said, "You like Vikings?" I was like, "It is a dramatization of the stories, but it's quite an interesting take on it. Like, and like I like Vikings anyway, but I liked the way the series was done specifically, especially once I got into it, because it was entirely about the history of the people while told through a story of individuals, which I really liked. Like I say, I liked the kind of style it was done in, and the actors were good, and like say Lagertha and Ragnar, especially when you get later on and they're all crazy and just like you're really engrossed in the characters and their developments and stuff, how they're going to survive this one.
Yeah. Well, I think you'll really like this. He's a great character.
Cool.
The main guy, Uhtred, he's really good. He's grown on me a lot over the seasons.
I'll check it out. Yeah, it sounds good. That's what I mean. We live on especially in England, especially in York, I guess. But there's so many different parts of history that march through here. So many armies and people dying, and especially in this river, there would have been battles. Because there's a bit in Vikings where they're sat on the bit and they're overlooking York, and I was always like, that would be Fulford, because they came through Fulford. They sailed through where I live to get to York to siege York.
Yeah.
And so I was like, they're literally where I walk the dog is where,
Yeah, that's what I mean when you think about.
Marched his army,
They would have sailed. They would have sailed down there, wouldn't they?
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, all sorts of. Yeah, I mean,
canal,
that was the main trade route to
river.
York.
That would have been a river back then, wouldn't it? I imagine.
Yeah. Well, it's a river now. Yeah. So yeah. In fact, it was a tidal river at that point. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is before it became because we've got a weir now, but yeah, it was tidal at that point. So yeah, at certain times of the year it'd be heavily flooded, and you get boats down there. And other times it'd be very dry, and you'd have to march down it. But that's how they sieged York. The Grand Old Duke of York song was because someone marched 10,000 men down the river, down the marsh, and up to Clifford's Tower. That's where the 10,000 men comes from. It's like they got into the city by the river because they thought it was a marsh and it was impassable, so they didn't have city walls around the marsh.
Yeah.
And they marched them down there and marched them up into the city and killed thousands. Fucking beheaded people and shit. And
That's
like
what.
Clifford's Tower, which is a tourist thing today, the last time it was used was when, well, I say used, it was a monument at that point, but fucking something like, I want to say 200 Jews went up and jumped off it and killed themselves because they were being hunted through the city.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was like a mob chasing these Jews and they went and killed themselves, and Jewesses. It even says that on the sign. So yeah, it's York's a fucking brutal place. Like you go look at all the history, and then you're like, how many people died to make this place?
That's what I mean. It's like
crazy.
Yeah, when you watch some of these historical things, I mean, I know they're dramatizations, like you're saying, fucking, but you know, they're like fucking. You hear about battles, and it's just like, yeah, fucking. When a city is like sacked or they take a city in a battle, it's just like everyone's fucked. You know, it's just like,
oh yeah,
you get fucking
it's
your
like,
head
you
smashed
can imagine if you're on a football team and you beat a team,
yeah,
then you're shitty to them. So imagine if you're on an army and like your side against their side, and your side was a town and their side was a different town, and you never met them. You had no reason to hate them other than the fact that they were in where you wanted to be, and you murder them, and then their wives are hot, and you've got stuff to steal, and and just savages, just these fucking. And I don't mean savages like the cavemen. I mean just like these fucking ripped, fucking super pumped monster dudes that have just had like an hour and a half battle against some guy that's trying to kill him the whole time, and fucking
weird. And then you burst into a city.
For 2 weeks just to get there. Yeah.
You burst into a city. You go like, I'm gonna rape and kill. I'm gonna take as much shit as I possibly can.
I'm gonna eat. I'm gonna drink. Yeah. I'm gonna take my fill of all my anger for the last 2 weeks of marching with fucking heavy armor and camel piss and sleeping next to fucking some knobhead. I'm just going to take it all out on this city. Yeah, no, 100%. It's the ultimate, the mental warfare that them guys must have had to go through at that sort of time in history.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
Especially when you might just be you're part of a kingdom and it's a shit kingdom and someone attacks it, it's going to definitely defeat you, but your king marches you out and says you have to fight.
Well, that's it. It's like the way they're all like. It's like raise the fjord or whatever, and then it's like fucking. It's basically just all the people from the villages, all the men and peasants and shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, well,
anybody that lives in that area
you have to fight.
You.
Yeah, you have to fight. Otherwise, this army will just come through your village and kill everyone.
Rape and pillage you.
Yeah. So we've got to kill.
It's like the bigger army just can come through and they'll literally, because you see that a lot in Game of Thrones when places are occupied and they're on the same side. But they're occupied to defend them, but then the army are just like, well, we have to eat, so we're going to take your shit to eat. It's like that mentality of we get first, and especially in something like something like Vikings, where you just they're just going to take it. They don't see you as their equals. So whatever point, even if they're defending you, they're just going to take what they want. And yeah, that's why I like Vikings when it's getting to late season when Bjorn went to become the king of all Norway.
Yeah.
And then got fucked over by his mate. And then you're like, oh man, these guys are fucking savages. He was in a prison cell. Bjorn saved him from it. And then there was a whole plan to unify Norway. And this guy was like, nope, I'm taking it.
Yeah, like King Harold is a fucking dick, him.
Yeah, because there's no in most films, this would be where the religious morals would come in, that kind of, but what about the truth? And I saved you and blah blah. But there isn't any of that. Their gods were different. Their gods would you take what you want, and he says he doesn't kill Bjorn, or they just eventually try to kill him. But he doesn't instantly just kill him. He's just I win. But yeah, it's one of them things where it's just oh, these guys are fucking savages. I don't want to be fucking around with them guys. It's just oh man.
I keep thinking,
anytime you show weakness, they just annihilate you.
You can see why everyone was just a warrior back then, because you'd be like, well, fucking, if I could just be such a good warrior that no one can kill me, then I'm in charge. And fucking, until someone invents arrows and crossbows and all this sort of shit, you couldn't kill people if you couldn't kill them from far.
Think about it this way, right? If you're around witty, wisecracking people, or comedians, or sort of people that are funny and wisecracking, you if you spend a lot of time with them, you have to become quick at being a wisecracker. Otherwise, you're just going to be the butt of everyone's jokes. And it's the same with physical strength or intelligence or anything. It's if you're around people that are all at that level of just hunger, where they'll just they'll do anything to feed their families and keep their settlement and make sure their part of the kingdom survives and whatever. If you're around them and you don't do the same thing, you're not going to get very far. You know, like, you're not going to survive to the next generation because they're just going to like, well, he's weak. And that's why it's like when in a lot of films they talk about if I show weakness, they'll get me. And it always feels like stupid and overplayed. Whereas in something like that, you can kind of like, yeah, if you show weakness to like these. Like, even if Bjorn is like, oh, he's dying, they'll be like, they're always starting to talk about who's the next king and whatever. It's like, oh, shit. Especially, like, I think it shows that with all the children of Ragnar as well, how they're all just, like, fucking, anytime they get a chance to fuck over each other or jump to another side, they just do it. Just go like, yeah, fuck them. Yeah, we're going to win, so we'll do it on this side and we'll win, and you can come with us. Like, okay, we'll do that.
Yeah, and it's about
And
their
there's some
glory.
moral stuff, but it's a different type of morals. It's a different. It's like, you know, whether it's like, yeah, like the glory. Like I say, it's like, does that bring you glory? Like betraying your own family to? It's like, yeah, but if I can rule all of Norway, it does. You're like, oh yeah, good point. You know, it's like fair enough. Yeah, it's like I say, I like it. I like it. And there's not a lot of like, you know, I can't forget, but I'll forgive. There's like, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
Or okay, it's done. Or like, there's lots of like I'm just going to accept I'm a bad guy, and I like that. I like that. It's like these are just there's a lot. Yeah, like I say, I do. I enjoy it. Although because they have the season gaps, it might never come back, and also because they have the season gaps, it's like you watch 6 episodes and then you have to wait 3 months, and then you watch another 6 episodes, and then it's like you have a 2-year gap, and then so yeah, when the next season comes out, which is when Bjorn and fucking legless, boneless, Ivan the Boneless finally come together, and one of them kills the other. Hopefully, I'm guessing Bjorn's going to die at some point. But
have you not seen to the end of the season?
Well, isn't it? Does he die? No, because Lagertha dies at the end of the season, or towards the end of the season. Is that the mid-season finale? Lagertha dies, and then what happens after that episode?
Not sure. Did you not see that battle at the end?
The battle at the end.
I don't know what they've done. So I mean, I can't tell sometimes if the season's new or if it's just on a break. I don't know where
I've
you're
seen
up
the
to.
season. So, like, Lagertha dies. She gets killed by the brother.
That's like halfway through. That's halfway through,
that's
sort
halfway
of.
He fucks off to Ivan and meets up with Ivan, and then they join sides. Does it have a season finale? Don't they come together and then it doesn't finish, or does someone die? Maybe it does.
Well, they had that battle. They had that battle, and then fucking like, what do you call it? What do you call it? Bjorn's on the beach, and then he turns around and fucking Ivar just stabs him in the fucking stomach, doesn't he? Like, and then he just. But you don't know. It's all dead trippy. You're not sure if it's a vision or something. I don't know what the fuck.
Yeah. Is that because they storm a castle and like they push Bjorn back, and then they have another fight? And yeah, maybe that is because Ivan stood up as well, isn't he?
Something like that, yeah.
Weird ones. Yeah,
I mean, I was just.
Changed.
That's halfway through season 6.
See that. I have seen that.
Got the rest of season 6 to make.
Through?
They haven't even fucking done the rest of season 6 yet.
So that's it. Yeah, I've seen that first half of that, but it finishes on him like being stabbed. You don't see him drop to the ground dead or anything, and they talk about Bjorn's dead. It's one of them ones where it finishes on like a cliffhanger, like he gets stabbed, and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
That's right, isn't it? Yeah. Is that right?
That's what I remember of it. I'm not sure if he's dead or not.
I remember. Yeah, no, now you said that. I do remember the battle of it because I was like, yeah, because like say that about halfway through that part of that first half of the season or whatever the fuck it is. Yeah, Lagertha dies, then there's a funeral, and they kill all them dudes. There's a funeral, and then yeah, he goes to Ivan, and they escape and like betray the fucking knobhead king or whatever his name is. And Ivor and the other brother and that
so with that fucking weird Persian guy who's just fucking weirdo.
Yeah. It was just.
I think he's Persian or Mongolian or something shit. I don't know.
What's the whole thing with like Ivan and that wife, and he's like, "You're my dead wife. You're the epitome of dead wife."
That's what I mean.
Like, what the fuck?
There's a lot of weird shit in Vikings. They always have weird shit like that in it, and that's what kind of annoys me a little bit about it.
Do you know what it reminds me of? Do you ever watch a film that's like in English or in subtitles, but it's like a Norwegian film, so it's about like trolls? Or like a good example is what's that film with like the superheroes, but it's a Russian film and it's really fucking crazy. Day Watch and Night Watch.
Yeah.
Films.
Yeah, it's one of their mythology.
It's like it's got a mythology, but it's like it feels like an American sort of style to it. But then when you're watching it, there's loads of stuff that's a little bit out of like you just kind of like it's like a different version or some sort of
we
like
don't understand that
there's a
sort
little
of
bit here that I don't
conceptual
understand.
idea.
Yeah.
Well,
You get
they're
a lot
like,
in, obviously you get a lot in like kung fu films as well, but I felt like that was like that's different because it's like I know a lot more of that. So or like westerns, you know a lot more about that, but it's like a weird genre where you get just like nuanced stuff. I find like there's a lot of stuff by like the guy that did Ronin. A lot of his films have weird Frenchness in them, or you know, like kind of like a weird like European feel to them. That's just kind of it's a little bit different from like English or especially American films. American films have a single like stuff. So yeah, I'm sure a lot of people see it with English films, but a lot of people think if I said think of an English film, they're not going to be like Trainspotting. They're going to be like Pride and Prejudice, because people think of crap films.
maybe, yeah. They might be like Lock, Stock. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe Lock, Stock. Yeah. So that Guy Ritchie is pretty famous. Have you seen that Guy Ritchie film yet? Have you seen Gentleman?
No, not yet.
Mate, you need to watch it. It's awesome.
I'm forgetting I've got it.
I want to talk to you about it. It's good. I really enjoyed it.
I keep forgetting I've got it. That's just remembered.
Yeah, you need to watch that. I'd watch that before you do the Marvel chronology super marathon. Because it's like you say, it's a film that it'll grab you because the obviously the language, like in a Tarantino film, it instantly starts with so this geezer said blah 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 blah, and then it's you know like that quick kind of you're like what? Oh yeah, it's got that like the whole way through the film, everyone's talking like, but yeah, it's cool and fucking Charlie Hunnam in it is brilliant.
Yeah,
he seems like a proper geezer, like he was made to do British gangster films, you know, and he's got obviously did like whatever that what was the football was it Football Factory or was it Green Street? He did Green Street, didn't he?
Yeah, he was in Green Street, I think. Yeah,
he was in Green Street as one of the like the hooligan guy, but yeah, in this he's really really good. I really liked him. He's like a proper gangster. He seems really good.
Nice. Yeah, no, I will watch that. So much to fucking watch. Like I say, I've just done 3 days of that fucking Last Kingdom.
Yeah, Last Kingdom.
That's pretty much what I've done.
That gives me something to do this week. That's I'll watch that this week. I'll learn a bit of history because it's like a little bits of knowledge. Like I'm pretty sure I get by on like half fact, half fiction. I'll say something which I believe to be true, but it'll be like based on like the film of the story of it. So it's like this is what I know as history, and then like oh yeah, most of that's right. You know,
so I mean, I just know a broad idea of like oh well, this and that and this happened, but I don't really know the details.
Like I would say, half my knowledge of like the space and stuff and like time travel and all that stuff, half comes from sci-fi and half comes from documentaries and stuff that I've watched about it. I've watched a lot of documentaries, but like that is definitely merged into something I've seen on like fucking some crazy sci-fi film. I'm pretty sure that's right. Yeah, you know, like when you like I've noticed since weirdly enough since watching Stargate Discovery, but you know the those fucking what are those things called, the tentacles or whatever the fuck they're called in Discovery, you know the
mycelial the tardigrade.
Tardigrade.
That's a real fucking thing, you know that.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. I've seen that so many times since Discovery that I've noticed that. I like how it's a real thing and it's this microbe that lives in like the quantum realm and shit.
Yeah.
Like you see, it's literally an Ant-Man. You see them like, and they look exactly like the tardigrade from that other thing. And I saw them in something else, some other sci-fi thing where it was like some other relevance. They're 100% real. Like if there's any sort of magic in the world, they are it. Like I think that's something like we because I never heard of them as a kid. I never heard them up until I saw Discovery, and I must have seen them 25 times since. I see them all the time, tardigrades, and I'm like, that's so weird.
Well, Discovery are actually getting sued because there's a fucking guy who had a web comic, and it was based. The whole thing is like this guy uses a tardigrade to fucking travel through fucking space and time and that like a fucking.
Oh really?
It's just a shitty little web comic, like, but this guy's literally like suing them because of it, suing like Paramount or whoever the fuck made it.
I know, they're rich enough, they can pay him. They can pay him out of court settlement. Boom.
But I've seen his drawings and shit, and like I saw a video about it, and like it's proper like spot on. It's like they fucking ripped it off, basically just ripped off his entire idea.
Love it. Nice. Why not? Fuck it. Because they can just pay him on the back end. They've already sold it. They've already made the money on it. They'll just pay him off. Here's £1 million. Here's £5 million. There you go. Ciao.
Cheers.
Thanks for the idea. We're going to take the rest, but then they buy all the rest of the rights to the story as well, so they can just use something else in the future. You know, like, okay, well, we just own your rights, then we'll just sign this, and then we own anything you write in the future. Shut your face. Here's $5 million.
It's like that guy who tried to sue the Iron Man design for the Iron Man suit, like in the movies, because it's like he had a comic where I can't remember what it's called, but it's like the guy wears an armored suit like that looks very similar to it, and you're just like, get fucked. Apart from that,
get fucked. There's no way he's doing that. It's like Iron Man already existed.
Yeah, your fucking character is a rip-off of Iron Man to start with, anyway.
Exactly. You looked at Iron Man and went, I could probably draw that better. You drew it better, and then they used a similar sort of idea in the film. Well, that's because someone else went, I can also draw it better.
That's it. And who the fuck's this dude, like, thinking he could fucking copyright robot suits? No, but robot suits in general, like, armoured suits in general.
If he had an Iron Man suit, or he had like a guy who had a comic book in a suit, and his suit was called fucking Mavis or something, and then Iron Man at one point called a Mavis unit, and it was exactly like that one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I can understand but that's the only way you're going to get in something like that. You know, like it's like, that's
all the designs. When you think about all the designs and different versions of just Iron Man alone, let alone anybody in sci-fi just wearing an armored outfit of sorts.
Yeah.
There's millions of them, and then this guy wants to fucking claim, get fucked. You know, this Iron Man suit's based on mine. Fuck off.
Yeah, no way, no fucking way. Plus, like you say, the people you're going up against are much bigger than you. I mean, there's no point trying to sue Disney. You ain't winning that shit. You ain't winning shit. Yeah, Disney's gonna be like, oh right, we have sex with babies, but yeah, sure. So it was over like.
All these companies do. They just file injunctions or whatever the fuck it is. They just delay things, and they just delay it so long until you die. That's it. They just send it round 1,000 different lawyers.
Like even if you win, you're so bankrupt. Like even if you win 10 million,
they'll just keep you in court for fucking 15 years.
Yeah.
You know, until you run out of money, and then like it's passed around so many fucking different lawyers and that, like that it's just like it just takes so long.
Yeah, and they'll pay off your lawyers or intimidate them or give them a case. Just say you can use this case over here. Just drop that one. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. You ain't gonna win against the big guy. Not in the money game. I wouldn't have thought.
Maybe that's why Trump's doing this. He's getting it. He's fixing the world.
He's trying, it seems.
It is a real pro-Trump fucking documentary, that though. It does make you come out the back end thinking Trump could save the world, like, you know.
But it's also quite strange because like the whole kind of conspiracy universe has always been quite liberal.
Yeah.
But over the last 5 years,
that is quite a strange take on it.
Very kind of Republican. You know what I mean? Like, but you like a lot of stuff with like gender and stuff like that. A lot of the kind of not even just conspiracy stuff, more fringe stuff. So like when you look at like news stuff that isn't reported directly all the time with a genuine answer, especially with stuff like what's his name? Peterson, Summer Peterson. Can't remember the name, but he talked a lot about like the dead naming and like
Jordan Peterson.
Jordan Peterson, thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, especially stuff like that has been a bit more, not necessarily right wing, but more like kind of controversial and arguing the point that, you know, we shouldn't all just have our say and everyone has a fucking opinion and all this sort of shit. It's been a bit more kind of aggressive towards like the pussies, whereas whereas it always used to be like, you know, it's the government and stuff. It used to be more of a hippie movement, and it was all like peace and love people. Whereas now it seems to be like the kind of more militant gun Americans that are doing documentaries.
This is what my thought is. It's like they've taken over the liberal side of things and made things more militant just to rebalance everything. So, you know, it's quite hard to fucking have an argument anymore. The sides are so blurred. Like all the liberal people, like you know, are acting like fucking Nazis now, you know, and just calling people out and shouting people down.
I've always thought myself like liberal in my ideas, but I would never say I'm liberal anymore because it's like I don't want to be associated with half of them. So when I think of liberal people,
you're an SJW.
I'm liberal. You're just like, oh Jesus.
Well, that's it. But you're a fucking social justice warrior. Like if you're a liberal now, and you know, if you're too far left.
Yeah, no, totally. But I also find stuff like that quite. Oh, that was weird. That was like a sound. But I also think that's a little bit. Sorry. I also think that social justice warrior, like even that term's quite bad. Because if I were to like say I saw something I didn't like on the street and I said something and someone was like, that's now like, oh, you're just a social justice warrior, blah, blah, blah. You know, for anything like liberal, it's like instantly become like a thing. So you can't be one, you can't be other. They're like, oh, you need to either be super fucking liberal and noisy and be a dick and everyone hate you, or you're a bad guy.
Yeah.
It's just like, can't I just be chilled out and just be nice to everyone? Like,
it's like if you don't agree with them,
conversation about it.
It's like it's like literally it's gone from the fact that you're allowed your own opinion and freedom to do whatever to the point where it's like if you don't agree with what they think, even if you don't agree with it, if you don't say anything, then you're a fucking knobhead, like, you know. And it's like, oh, so I have to agree with you, or I'm a fucking Nazi.
Yeah.
You know,
or like even saying stuff like, to be honest, I don't really know anything about this. I don't want to talk about it. They'll be like, oh yeah, that's typical. You don't know anything about it, so you're wrong.
Yeah, typical white male.
Yeah. It's got nothing to do with me. I don't care. Like abortion, it's like.
Has all this lockdown just killed that fucking movement in a weird way, though?
No.
I know people
are with a vengeance. I think people are sat at home making signs as we speak.
See, I think is she right?
I think that's going to be mixed in with the like freedom movement of America. I think there's going
possibly
to be
there could be a new movement after this. Thing is, right? It's like for me, it feels like the only way things like that sells is when, like, obviously Hollywood and all the liberal agenda and all that sort of shit that's being pushed now, or has been pushed up until this point, like, you know, because it was selling, or it was sort of, until things started bombing. But now you get like this lockdown, and the whole business is going to be fucked when it comes out of this. So can they afford to throw millions at some like fucking vanity liberal project for some writer, you know, when they're like, we really need to make money here. We can't afford to have a film that bombs because you put your agenda in it. We need to make hits, hit after hit after hit. And if fucking white men with guns sells, then we're going to sell that. Yeah.
Like, yeah, but also it's like there's going to be a lot less, like, just from what you were saying there, just made me kind of think, it's going to be a lot less humanitarian movements in the world because there's not going to be the funding.
Potentially,
behind things, like, because people aren't going to give money to charity if they're worrying about money for themselves.
Yeah.
People in like prosperity give away more money, or more, like, probably a less percentage, but more money overall. You know, like Bill Gates or whatever, because they just have ridiculous amounts of money. They can be like, there's £1 million, leave me the fuck alone. You don't ask for five on the street. I just give £1 million to fucking whatever. But they're not going to necessarily, because they're not going to have the money to do it. They're going to be like, well, actually, you know, I've only got 2 billion left, so I'm going to keep that for my whatever children, wife.
My lizard wife.
Yeah, you know, like for the Black Pope. So, what is the thing about the Black Pope and the Grey Pope?
I'm not sure 100%. I just know there's like a kind of.
I've heard of it. I've definitely heard of it. Because like I say, I've heard of it from them lyrics, and I've heard of it on a documentary.
It's like the Jesuits or something. I don't know what it is. It's something to do with the Jesuit order and a few other weird things like that. I'm not 100%. I probably knew more about it 7 or 8 years ago.
I feel like I've known about
it
once, and it's like somewhere in my brain there's like an empty file. I'm opening it, and like, oh, there's no information in there. That's it.
Yeah, I guess I didn't use this information. Like,
it's degraded. There's just dust in there now. It's just like, you know, spider's webs and an old moth. But yeah, so
it's going, hey.
It's like, oh well, that's gone. I hate your papers, because he's a black man from the South in the early 1940s. But yeah. Well, howdy, what do you do around these parts? Yeah, that's the guy that's the librarian in my fucking ancient tomb of a brain.
So yeah. But I'm not sure. Like I said, I wouldn't mind watching a documentary about it. I think I might go down a little conspiracy documentary over the next week or two. Like.
Start having a little flick, and we'll share, because this would be a good thing to discuss as well. It's quite a fun thing to discuss because it keeps our minds occupied, and I think like thinking this way feels quite like healthy for my brain.
Yeah, I think that's
little like tandems sometimes. I think having these conversations with you make me feel a little bit more alert.
I will say though,
like, be a bit more on it.
Yeah, and I think as well, like, it's kind of like I found that I remember kind of feeling my brain was a lot more active when I was occupying and thinking about conspiracy theories a lot more when I was, several years ago, 10 years ago, whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't really think about those sort of things anymore, or watch documentaries, and I start feeling like I can't bullshit my way through as many conversations about like shit like that, you know what I mean? And I had a lot more general knowledge, which was kind of useful back then because I'd heard about a lot more stuff, and obviously it was conspiracy related, but it's gone out of my head since.
Well, but also it's like it's political related and it's historic related and stuff. You know what I mean? Like they'll talk about like JFK, and you're like, well, I know about JFK, you know, like as an Englishman, you know, I mean, like I'm sure most 90% of Americans know who JFK is, and you know the rough story. But yeah, as someone from a completely different country, I'm like, well, I know all about him because I watched a whole documentary about him and about how his stuff, and Twin Towers, and all sort of weird Mayan shit and crazy stuff. I want that to be the next thing. I want it to be something to do with the Mayans. I like some sort of like discovery in ancient things to happen. That'd be fun.
I just want it to be outside
I feel
the
like
box.
aliens are the things that really like. If like let's go down a crazy rabbit hole. That come out this fucking COVID. Eventually, come out this COVID. Goes to the elections. Fucking Donald JFK Jr. turns up. The whole world goes into this crazy thing. It's like we've had that's like the ultimate crazy conspiracy, and then maybe the world elite will go crumble, and this whole infrastructure of like this super Hollywood stardom will crumble. I saw something about people talking about trying to like take over the like currencies and try and really change the world when they come out of this and stuff. Might have been Joe Rogan, probably was. But yeah, it's like like the whole world's changed, and then they discover like this crazy ancient Mayan temple that they've never seen before that's super advanced, and it's like mega technologies. It's like that would be the ultimate timeline.
Yeah,
that would be like that's the start of a.
Well, I just think, imagine this, right? Imagine a scenario where like you come out of this, and then something like that happens. JFK Jr., Trump, blah blah blah, and then they just so basically, if he comes out and he's alive. That's the biggest conspiracy ever, and fucking
biggest conspiracy ever. Like, and literally like ties into all the other biggest conspiracies.
But that's
like
what I'm saying. That's what I'm going to say.
Like, they'll have all the proof.
That's what I'm trying to say. It's like yeah, fucking it opens the door to every other conspiracy ever. Like because then it's like, well, what else is a conspiracy in the fucking world? Yeah. This has been going on. And it's like, well, the Cabal, the Illuminati, the fucking, and then all of a sudden it's like we're having to learn a new history of the fucking world that these fuckers have been hiding from us. And then we're talking about like that we go into the future and they're like fucking they find a new economy, like you said, getting a new economy sorted, and just it's like different.
Because that's the thing. If you took away, say there was 1% of America, that's still fucking 32,000 people. So say 1% of America are tied into this cabal. 32,000 people in prison, like as like about a third of as many people have been killed by COVID, just like disappear as well. But they're all like politicians and teachers and fucking actors and musicians and people like Rihanna.
It'd be like a second Holocaust, wouldn't it? Like.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, a celebrity Holocaust. Like
what the fuck has happened?
People, like Rihanna and Jay-Z are like, these people that are like, probably not Kanye. Maybe Kanye. But he's probably crazy because he's not part of it. That's what I feel like with Kanye. Or maybe he is. He's definitely crazy.
I think it's. Well, the thing is, right? Wait. He wasn't crazy to start with until he got famous, and then he became crazy over the last like 5 or 6 years, and it's like fucking really crazy. I think that's what it happens. It drives people fucking mental, or they take this drug, they have godlike fucking visions and shit. The DMT. Yeah. Imagine
he talks like God. Like he's like Shia LaBeouf. They both talk like they're like.
What happens with celebrities when they have these meltdowns? What are they doing? It's like they've fucking seen a fucking DMT trip or something, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
So they
probably is just some sort of DMT derivative.
Whatever drug it is, like that's what I'm saying. It's like it's probably something like along those lines.
Yeah.
Some deep, and you use it for different stuff. You either use it for fucking youth longevity, or people can use it for fucking transcendental fucking meditation, whatever the fuck they want to do.
Well, especially stuff like that. People can also use it, like you can guide people in them situations. You can make it better or worse for them. You know what I mean? Like any
unguided
kind of hallucinogenic trip can be really like guided to like an ideal or a concept or whatever. Yeah, but imagine if they bring all these people down and it's like people that like like when Michael Jackson was convicted of paedophilia. It's like them people just like, I just don't believe it. Like, I don't believe it happens. Just
I'm
complete,
thinking,
like.
See, I'm thinking all these ones that are coming out now. It's like I think these are the ones that they've been thrown to the wolves to like try and
100%. This is
satiate the
just,
fucking,
you
know, who they really are after.
Yeah, red herrings, definitely. 100%.
Yeah, like they've been just like fucking sacrificed themselves, like
But then what about Epstein? Because Epstein seems to be the tie-in to all of these things.
Well, I think once mate, I think with this,
shit, we fucked up with him.
Yeah, possibly, but I think sometimes it's like when the vultures start circling, and that's why they killed him, like and it's like there's nothing that they could do. That like there are people out in the world that will get to the bottom of it, given enough fucking direction on the certain police and stuff. They can't stop certain things,
Do you think Weinstein will live through the pandemic?
No, I think they'll come out the other side, and he'll find out he's dead. He's died at some point.
Apparently he had it. Apparently you found out early on that apparently he had it. I think Joe Rogan mentioned it. I think his prison had a massive outbreak.
It depends how high up he is. I don't know. Who knows? Fucking, you know what I mean? How connected he is. They could seek to fucking kill him. Like, I'd be very surprised if he came out of the other side of this alive.
Yeah, so would I. Oh yeah. Yeah, totally. Because he looks like a bad guy as well. He doesn't look like. There's certain people in life you look like you were made to be a bad guy, and he looks like a disgusting pig man. You know what I mean? Yeah, he does. He does. He just looks like he was supposed to be a pig man and just be all like.
Thing is, if he's in prison now, like, what happens? Are you ever going to hear about him again? Is anyone ever going to hear from him again? Because he's in prison now for the rest of his life, technically. So he could die in prison and you might never hear about it, He could be dead right now and you might not know. I don't know.
100% he could be dead right now and we'd never hear about it. But you would think if he was in prison, we'd hear his life story, or we'd have a book about, the wrongful conviction of a super creepy dude, or something. But yeah, I feel like that it'll just be like one of them things that we'd like, oh, do you remember what happened to Weinstein in like a year from now? Like, I never really saw any case about him. And when we came out of the corona, no one talked about it. I never saw it on the news ever again.
Yeah, and imagine you Wikipedia him and he's dead. He died as a date.
Yeah, he just died that thing. Yeah, and it's just like, from suicide. He stabbed himself in the chest with a knife for suicide. Fucking crazy ass suicide. Fucking suicide. Yeah, those just obvious fucking hits in.
That's what I mean. But there's shit like that going on. I cannot believe people will not look at conspiracies and think it's a fucking crazy thing, because you're like,
oh yeah,
at least give it a moment and have a listen with an open mind, because there's people getting whacked on fucking conspiracy theories all the fucking time here.
Well, the thing is, it's not like spies and stuff like that are like. I mean, there's been so much media. It's like they exist. Like it's like I mean,
put it this way: our media exists like fucking Mission Impossible and shit like that because those things exist. They don't fucking exist because the media exists. We didn't make them up. You know what I mean?
Sure, there's so much worse. And not only that, there's films like fucking siege films that are based on true stories about like sieges in the fucking in London, or like that 6 days, or like infiltration films where they go into different countries that are based on true stories. Well, if that's true, then that's like what they show us. You know what I mean? Like, imagine all the stories that they did show. Did you see the bit I found fascinating? The 6 guys that apparently killed Osama bin Laden.
Yeah, I've heard that before. They're all dead.
Fucking helicopter crashed 6 months later. I was just like, fuck off. These guys were
loads
badass
of shit
dudes
like
that took down fucking bin Laden, and they died 6 months later from a helicopter crash. It's like there's so many bits in that where I'm just like, god damn. Nobody fucking lives to this. I thought it just disappeared and they're like Black Ops they're fucking Black Widow now, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Their helicopter crashed. And
that's what it sounds like when their helicopter goes down. It sounds like, they've just been wiped off the board, like, to fucking, like, and they're now just operating, behind the scenes, and the ghosts are basically Jason Bourne and Black Widow, like you said. That's what you're thinking.
Yeah. That's it. The Jason Bourne, the Black Widow, yeah, exactly.
Or they've retired.
Any of those characters where they're just like.
Or they've been allowed to. They've retired. So you die in a helicopter crash and you retire, and you and your family are moved somewhere else, and you have new identities now forever.
Yeah, or like you say, they're just wiped out. They're just there was a fault with the brakes.
Because they needed to kill them and get rid of them. But it's it could be anything.
Like, the thing is, throughout that documentary, every single thing you could say that it could be a coincidence. Like that, if I'd heard that as a fact by itself, I'd be like, Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it could happen. They're in war zone, and 6 months later, and it could well happen. But there was so many things in that like at least some of them have to be true. They had to be. There's too
That's
many
always the thing.
random
Thing is that's always my fucking measure with like conspiracy theories. I watch enough of it like back then that it's like you can't hear the same information enough time, like so many times, and there's only so many coincidences. It's like the documentary said there. It's like how many coincidences before it's not a coincidence anymore. And like, there's only so many times I can hear the same information, in different documentaries before I go, well, that has to be true because that's multiple sources kind of saying the same piece of information, that they've discovered. So that must be sort of generally accepted that that is true, kind of like like a general truth. You know what I mean? That's what it sort of feels like. That's the way I sort of view it
anyway. No, I agree.
But yeah,
just aliens. That's all I want.
I like that
videos.
They really sort of tried not to venture too far, but they started venturing into like potentially viewing alternate timelines and stuff and things like, which I thought was quite interesting.
I can't remember that bit.
I remember that they were talking about. I think they only sort of said it at the end, sort of. Like kind
was
of
it
about
during the JFK Jr. bit.
Just about that. Like has he discovered a way to view it? Through technology to discover timelines.
It just went a bit like sci-fi. Yeah,
it's just
I
fucking
don't feel like
speculation.
That was it. I felt like it was more like if you had an intelligent enough understanding of like say an equation to just tie in things, what the likely outcome of certain things and how long it would take you to execute a plan. You want to disappear. You don't want to disappear for a year because the people that you disappear from are still around. But 20 years later, it might be their what's predecessor? What's the opposite? Predecessor.
Ancestor. Predecessor.
Yeah, well, the ancestor. Yeah, ancestor. I guess. Yeah, it'll be the person that comes after them in charge that you then have.
Successor. Like
initial threat is gone. Successor. That's their successors that you're actually dealing with, and then it's a different battle. You know what I mean? So I can understand like that as a concept, but like the fact that you can see the future and knows exactly how it's going to work out and stuff. Maybe you won't know unless it happens.
Imagine it'd be like fucking did Trump and him. Like they use Trump's money, build like a fucking collider or something, fucking discover a way to fucking look at these timelines, or build a fucking massive simulation computer that would predict it, and then he was like, if I take myself out of the game for fucking 20 years, then all my enemies will think I'm dead, and they won't be around.
Well, think of it. They have algorithms in business. So if you're Donald Trump and you own a multi-million-dollar business, they have algorithms that run what the market's doing over the next 20 years and how the cost of oil with the speed of development with research on biofuels and how they'll have all these algorithms. They could just work it and say, right, well, the market in 2020 is going to be good enough that it's going to give you long enough to get rid of these things. This guy will die. That guy will probably become president. They've probably got the next 10 years of who's likely to go into what area and who the next candidate to run for Senate in Chicago or in California is, because that's going to then push them 5 years later to then go into that, and by the time they're 35,
I imagine the further out they get. I imagine the further out they get from whatever probability they start with, the probability goes down, kind of. So they'll be like, they start getting to the point where they can't predict who's going to follow because they haven't been born yet because it's so far out, or whatever,
But then you're still updating the metric as you go. You don't have to just do it once. You could do it, and then a year later you can do it, and you can see how
the probability of this guy reaching office or existing or whatever is actually gone up, and then all of a sudden he does exist, and now the probability of him becoming president does shoot up.
That could, theoretically, I think that is possible. I couldn't invent it, but I am certain that there'd be ways to, even if it was just to understand markets, you could do that, and you could understand. Well, if the market's low, then the chances are over. Historically, Republicans are in, and if the Republicans are at this point, they're going to vote on these type of laws because these are the ones coming up on the docket over the next 5 years.
Actually, you
could understand concepts of that.
Yeah, you could create something that would allow you to do that with the market.
Are we just come up with the greatest invention of all time?
No, but then go.
Are we geniuses?
Are we? No, but then you go.
Are we amazing?
You come up with something that can predict markets or whatever, and then you go, well, what else can we do with this? Like, what else can it predict? And then you start applying it to other things and doing different stuff, and then all of a sudden, 20 years later, you've got a computer model that can predict like fucking actual, world
Yeah, yeah, of
events.
course.
You know,
Like I say, if you've been making that for 10 years, by now you would have updated the software, or 20 years, say, because, say 1999, say in
into social
2000,
media, it's hooked
decided to
into
do
it.
it.
It analyzes social
Yeah,
media trends, and then it's predicted. Like this was one of my thoughts.
yeah.
Was it was like the lockdown, because they're like, look, if we don't do a lockdown, there's going to be a society is going to fucking fall to bits within the end of the year, because there'll be like riots over fucking civil unrest. All this.
I think if they hadn't done the lockdown, we would have been suffering. I think the death toll would have been as high as they think it would have been. I
Yeah, I
honestly
think
think,
so.
like, the
Yeah.
lockdown, I think it's partly to do with also people's mentality.
Yes.
Like, I think people have like gone back and taken a minute. Because, like, imagine, like, you now, if I caught a cold today, I'd be like, right, I'm ready to catch a cold. I'm chilled out. I've had 3 months off work.
Yeah.
It's not like I need a day off. I can just, like, I know I need to fight a cold. But if I've been working 60 hours this week and then I'm like, shit, now I've got a cold.
Mm.
Like, the way I'm approaching it before it even starts is worse.
Have a
You know what I
meltdown.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
and like, having a meltdown, going to be tired, going to be run down anyway, might not have the food in the fridge, whereas people getting now, they're well fed, they're getting fed all day, all they're doing is sitting around and eating, the body's just metabolizing the food and just keeping them healthy or whatever, or somewhat healthy, and then they're not around loads of people, they're not talking all day, they're not
Yeah.
going out and getting shit faced every night and fucking banging some broad.
Yeah.
So I don't know why, but I had to go into economy for that. But yeah, so I think, like, yeah, and I think people would have passed it to all the vulnerable people who would then be getting
Yes.
sick. And I think, like, if people are getting it through touch, I think that's one thing, and then they might get a little bit in their nose and they might have symptoms for it. But I think if someone coughed in your face or onto something and you're touching a slimy thing, because that happens, like,
Yeah.
there's definitely a time when, like, in the middle of December, when people have got colds where they're sneezing into the hand and then they get off the bus and they put the hand on the bus and you just get on the bus and you're like, yeah, sit down, and you end up with a cold.
Yeah.
So, like, that would have been much worse. I think that version of the virus would have been worse, and I think it would have
Just
developed a
public
lot more by then.
transport, fucking pubs.
I think
just
it
people,
evolved. I think it
nightclubs.
evolved
Yeah,
loads
people.
by now.
Imagine
Whereas
all
it's
the
only
people
evolved a
just
little
standing
bit.
in nightclubs, fucking just talking into each other's ears, like people do,
Or
like
strip clubs, or
Yeah.
fucking jiu-jitsu clubs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Imagine all the dudes in jiu-jitsu clubs just sweating on each other.
Yeah.
Or boxing gyms, or fucking climbing walls. Like
Gay
where I
sex
go, man.
basements.
Fucking
Yeah.
climbing wall is just hands on wall all day.
Yeah.
And they're like wiping their nose and then putting their hand on the wall and filling up their fucking hand with chalk and putting that all over it. You know what I mean? So yeah, I do think the lockdown was necessary, and I do think it continues
Isn't
to
it
be
funny?
necessary until we get a cure.
Isn't it funny though how like you kind of think of society from this point of view now, and you think fucking hell when you think about it a couple of months ago, you're like, how the fuck did we not have a virus all the time, like constantly?
Yeah,
Like
100%,
when you think
100%, yeah.
how unprepared we
So,
were for this.
there's some crazy statistic. It's like at the moment there's something like 2 million viruses that are fighting for like
Dominance.
supremacy over
Yeah.
the human race.
Yeah.
And like at the moment, COVID's number one, but the top like 1,000 are like just as deadly, but they're just like they're not quite there yet, and they work in slightly different ways. And like how viruses are like different. There's different viruses. So there's different they're like different creatures. So
what I
like this
mean.
one is like
This
a
is the
slow
perfect-
one. It's got a really long hibernation.
This is the
and then it
perfect
draws
virus.
out.
It feels like this is, like I said, this is why I can't get away from the fucking the idea of like this is created or man-made, because it's like it's like the most perfect fucking if you could just take this and this bit of this and that, if like you were mashing together some animal, like a bit of spider and a bit of fucking lion and a bit of this and a bit of that, then you make the perfect creature, like you know what I mean?
Gargoyle tongue and
Yeah, that's what I
face
mean.
of a newt.
It's a griffin, like fucking. It's just like.
It's a tiger. It's just throw it in. It's gonna make a potion. I don't know.
Okay, who cares? Like that's what I mean. It's just like that's what this feels like. It's like we need something to stop people being able to hug each other. We need something to stop people being able to fucking talk to their friends. And fucking, and you can't fucking incubate for too quickly. Otherwise, it needs to be able to be so elusive that we don't know if you've got it for 2 weeks. It's just like.
What would be really interesting, right? If this continues and it doesn't, and they would start releasing people from our quarantine, and then we go out and it gets really bad again. Everyone has to quarantine again, and they can't find a cure for it. But then what they do is they introduce like a minimum standard for health. Yeah. So like you get sent vitamins and and vitamins and shit, vitamins through the post, and like you're made to eat certain foods, and there's like ration for shit food. So like beef burgers and stuff is rationed, but you can buy as much fucking vegetables as you want. And like the only way they can cure it is by making everyone on the planet healthy. And like being fat is like just disgusting. Like people are like, you're not allowed to be fat. You have to be healthy and thin. That'd be interesting. That'd be a fun world. I'd love that. Everyone's just ripped.
Imagine it though, like fucking. But that's it. It's like, yeah, would imagine, yeah, they start fucking sending.
Well, it just becomes like Sparta. Everyone's just like, right, you have to be disciplined with your health. You just all have to be Spartans. Everyone just becomes Spartans, just fucking rocking it all the time.
That'd be awesome.
Everyone's just ripped and angry. It would be, but people would just be getting straight up fighting because people that never fought in their life and now work out. So like, I do Tai Bo in my living room on a Tuesday.
Yeah, everyone would be like a fucking meathead.
Now you're ripped, so now you've got yeah, now you've got meatheads. So yeah, there'll be loads of meatheads that aren't actually meatheads. Where there's other people that've been like, I've been this for 30 years. It's like, let's go.
Ultimate fighter for like.
Just fucking yeah, exactly. An armor fight, or even just like a fucking lumberjack that's like, yeah, I'll fight you. Just fucking smash, punches their head off the shoulders. Yeah.
Yeah, fucking. Is that going to be the way they introduce all the fucking control over like food and control like?
Because that makes sense, right? Because like if you wanted a better human race, especially if we're going into like some sort of weird Neuralink universe, you need the bodies to be as fit as possible. You need them to be able to take the implants and stuff like that. And because like that's what I was thinking. I was like, how are you going to implant stuff? Because some people are just like they can't have implants. They would fight the implant stuff. But you need super healthy people that are like educated about like how to look after their body when their brain is then going to be like vastly overrun with all these new things and being worked on energy all the time. Just get them all on the right vitamins and minerals.
You think
and shit.
It's a culling? And fucking... It's a culling of the weakest so that we could start building. Yeah, would they be like? Are they setting it up so that like you have to be healthy and have to be this and you have to take these government registered like health things, and that's like how they introduce like the neural net through nanites or something. I don't know.
No, I was just thinking like just basically making like a more superior, just everyone like I say the alpha male version of himself or female version of himself.
It would be interesting, if it becomes a world sort of movement trying to like kind of trying to make people better. Just a world movement now. Like it's just like we have to be
like
healthy.
Evolution through just pure like fucking what's the word? God, my brain's stopped working. I've obviously not eaten enough. Through pure will alone, just fucking evolve, motherfuckers. Just just be the best you all the time. And
if
then
you
the
think
next
about
generation
it,
be the best fucking you.
This could be like evolution. It's almost like this is an evolution act, an act of evolution. Almost like it's like for your race, your species, it's like you have to only the survivors of this, and that means your race will be stronger because which is as
especially
species,
the way we react to this as a species. But the thing I think the people that are asymptomatic are going to be the ones different versions of the virus. Like the people that get it and die are probably getting a virus. That virus is like, I kicked your ass. But the ones that are getting it, that it's like fighting off, that's when the virus itself is going to be like, shit, this doesn't work on this guy. Oh, maybe this will work.
Let's change. Let's alter.
And this guy got a little bit sicker than that guy over there. So they both got it like from the same person, but this one got sicker. So maybe so that genetic in this person works better than that person. And the virus just keeps jumping and jumping. What if there was like because obviously the virus multiplies and stuff, but what about the initial virus? That first one just jumps to the next one.
If they'd made
like 10 jump off that and jumps to the next one.
If they'd made a virus that was self-aware and like it was
like an AI virus.
Yeah, like it's an AI virus. Yeah, it's actually aware that it is a being and it exists. It has consciousness. And it's fucking actually eluding them and trying, and fucking it's going to change itself. Because if it gets into, let's say every time it infects, like a doctor or someone who has actual medical knowledge, of the virus and stuff, it learns what that person knows. Now the virus knows, like whatever that doctor was learning and studying about related to COVID, and now like it knows to change itself. Well, look, they're investigating like this, that, and the other about DNA and this, that. And, so we need to it'll alter itself so that its chemical makeup is slightly different or something. So every time they try and make a vaccination, the virus is like a step ahead of it. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Was it
It is a
self-aware?
really weirdly specific virus.
Yeah.
That's the thing I find
It's
kind
like
of
imagine if
strange
it was a
about it.
like I remember fucking. It's almost like what do you call it? Fucking quite, but like the strain. You know, where like the virus is actually just the vampire. You know, it's like it's
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
master is just like he is the virus kind of. You can see through all their eyes and that. But which is cool. But it's like imagine if this virus was like a demon or something or some sort of being that they discovered and they've been keeping
Like
it.
it follows, but a virus.
Yeah, but it's like an ancient being from like the fucking
Yeah,
dawn
yeah,
of
yeah.
from like primeval times or whatever like, and it's
Yeah,
and
from
it,
the
ex-
original story.
and it's only ever been able to exist in animals. Oh, still there? You still
So
there?
like, yeah, like God of the animals. Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
I'm still
all
here.
right,
Yeah,
right, right.
I'm still here. Can
Yeah,
you hear me?
I got
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's like it's only been able to exist in animals up until this point, like you know, and so it can't actually. It's only capable. It's only as intelligent as the brain that it occupies. Imagine that. So once it jumped to humans, it became
Imagine
self.
that.
Yeah, no,
Imagine that.
imagine it, mate.
Oh, I'm following. I'm following. So I'm following. Yeah, I'm good. I like
No,
the
but
story.
so
Good,
it
keep going.
jumped. So the moment it jumped to a human, that's when it became self-aware, and it got as much intelligence as that human had, the first human who had it, and then
Interesting.
it started to learn how humans work. Now it's very clever because it's infected thousands of people, and it's like
5,000 people.
yeah.
I love the fact that we can go from a serious debate
No,
and
yeah.
conversation about ideas
But I get
directly
there.
into a story where we're both like, yeah, I kind of follow you. Maybe we could go down that lane. And but like, I think we both realize it is just like, what about if this story happened? And what about if
Yeah.
that? Where sometimes, but I always like, I miss the point where we get there. Then I'm like, when did we get into this part of the story? You know, like, when did we get into this part of the conversation where we had, like when we did that Tesla thing the other week, I was like, at what point did we go from science, like the potential of this, to like full science fiction? You know,
Yeah.
because they were just like coming up with ideas like, and what about if the aliens come down? Like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think like I would love the Federation style worlds, the worlds where it doesn't like the idea of like sort of the capitalist idea, or like I don't really know politics. So the idea of like everybody can be equal and all that sort of stuff, I struggle with in the way that the world's run. But if the world was run like everyone, it's limited. Like if everyone in the 1980s had iPhones, it'd be
Yeah.
like everyone was equal. You know what I mean? Because it would be like such a jump in like technology and stuff. So if everyone had like food replicators and fucking a house some with heat and water and safety, then I think people would kind of be like, well, I don't need 12 jets because like what difference does it make? Everyone has one jet, so what difference does it make if I have 12? It'd just be a pointless thing to have for rich people. So
Yeah.
I think people would be a bit more altruistic and just be like, yeah, let's all share wealth because everyone's wealthy now. I think the problem being is most people that are wealthy are like, why the fuck would I share my wealth? I earned this shit. You need to
Yeah.
earn it. Which
Yeah.
I agree with entirely. But I think if we all had the ability, like say, if we all had the ability to read each other's minds and talk telepathically, I think people would be a lot more inclined to be like, yeah, let's have other stuff that we all have. We seem to work well with this until people get like cyberbullied in the head to death and so on, mind raped and their thoughts stolen. I mean, that is definitely going to happen. That's going to be a movie about that. Someone gets their thoughts stolen from their brain.
Technology.
Or a different brain implant. Yeah, I just feel like there's so much to think, what if people can do this? Surely someone could do that, couldn't they?
I think once it's got to be the barrier. It's got to be the wall. It would be like, look, you're not allowed. We're not allowed past that. Fucking with brain stuff, we're not allowed to get to the point where we can read people's thoughts. Otherwise, it's over as a species.
No way. I mean, don't get me wrong. 100%, it's over as a species if you can read each other's minds. I think that'd be like it'd be an amazing power to be able to have and control. Otherwise, it would be a horrible power to be on the other end of, where someone can read your mind.
Be a horrible
And it'd
power
be a
to
terrible power to have and
unleash
not
upon
control.
the world. Like, like you imagine if this was the fucking result of the virus, like fucking everyone who survived it,
everyone's minds.
everyone who survived it became telepathic, and fucking it was just like
Weirdly enough, right? I've got a book at the moment called Biohacked and Begging, and it's a book of short stories, and they're all at most about 2 pages long. right? And one of the stories in that was about a world. This is like the second story or something, or the first story. It's about a world where everyone got a neural implant where they can all read each other's minds, right? And after about a month, they all decided to turn it down so they couldn't read each other's minds as much because obviously everyone just got all everyone's thoughts all the time. But then what they did is they made like bodies that degrade when they're not touched by human contact in order to push people out into the world and get to know each other. You can read your mind and you can, you have to feel to live. And it's about a beggar who's on the street begging and her body's like fucked up and like melting and shit. And she's begging just for somebody to touch her. That's all they need, and then her body will start to regenerate. But she has her barrier up, which kind of pushes people away. It's like a mean thoughts barrier. So as soon as people come near, it's like mean thoughts, so they don't try and read a mind. And it's like a short. It's literally like a 2-page story. So I pretty much told you the entire thing. But then eventually a kid comes over and touches your arm, and then a woman comes over, and they all get this big fucking orgy, and then there's like a big black
turns
guy
into a
comes over,
fucking
like,
hot fucking homeless bitch, and it's like, fuck yeah.
Like, it's like the cops come and they're like, looks like somebody needs tying up.
Yeah,
it's like, it's amazing. But
it's
yeah,
like, you don't know me.
Oh, what have I done, officer? I've been a bad girl. I need lots of punishment. I don't know why they're all southern today. I feel like all my characters will be like, they got that dirty south. Or like New Orleans. I don't even know where that was. But either way, it's that story about like people that can read minds, but then like it's like this barrier that people put up is kind of pushing people away. It's like so they can't read your mind, so you just send them horrible thoughts, sort of thing. So they're just like, oh, fuck you then, cunt. So they don't try and like because obviously if you connect with someone, then you'd want to read their mind, but you also have to physically connect with people, otherwise your body degrades.
Yeah.
I thought it was quite an interesting. Like I say, all these stories are super fucking weird. They're all like 2 pages long. I thought it was like because it said like biohacking and begging and other short stories or other stories, and literally the whole book is just 2 pages each, and they're all just super long, short sci-fi stories. But biohacked and begging, which is the name of the book, is a 2-page story. I was like, wow, you could really just make a book on anything now. It's just like ideas. There's one of them. I'll tell you another one because they don't take long. There's a woman and she goes to her. She says to her Alexa, who's the most popular person in the world, knowing the answer because it's the answer every day. It's her, and she knows it's her. But then this is the day she's prepared for because someone else's name is done. And it's great now that they now use like avatars, and so she doesn't even have to be on Tinder. But they also created a law where everyone has to, or not Tinder, sorry, like Instagram, her social media. But they have to do it themselves. They can't have a company or a person or another person doing it to you. It's like legally you have to do it yourself, but you can use like an avatar, like because it's the future. It's like you just make yourself on there and it's just you and you can chat and walk around. It looks like that. So no one really recognizes her anymore. So she goes out and she goes to this restaurant where this woman is, where she can find her on her app, and then poisons her. And then she notices that she hasn't been on this social media for 5 hours, and now it's like she knows that the serum's kicked in, and the only person that can wake her is her. She's she checks Alexa, and she's the most popular woman in the world again. The end. And you're like, well, what happened? Like, did she kill the bitch? Like, did she save her? Did she go to him like, I'm the main bitch, don't fuck with man? No, she just goes there and fucking stabs this bitch, and then comes back and she's like, that's right, I'm the prettiest woman in the world.
Job done. Like,
yeah, exactly.
That's the end of that story.
Like,
There's no repercussions.
But they're all like that. They're all like kind of like right. It's like it is like it's quite a fun little book to read because it's sort of what I need to read at the moment because it is just short stories that kind of got me going. Okay, I could write a story like that. I could write 50 stories like that. Why don't I make a book? But I've got loads of little like stories like that which are just like a couple of paragraphs or a couple of pages long, and I'm just like, it's sort of the start of a story, but it's like someone just came up with an idea and went, what about is this bitch? She's like the most popular in the world, and she goes and kills the other one. Like, that'll do. Write it down. Give me 2 pages. Yeah. I need 2 pages by next week. So. Yeah, it's quite. But they're all. I can't remember the other. There's a few of them. I've read 3, but I can't remember the other one. I can't remember what the other one was. I remember the other one being the better one of the ones. I can't remember what it was at the moment. But yeah, it's pretty fucking weird. But they're all like Black Mirrors. They're all just individual. Just like what the fuck. But they are interesting, I guess. So I do like.
Nice.
Yeah.
Fucking. Some weird news.
Yeah, go on.
Let's look at all the news. Like, China's ambassador to Israel He's found dead, like in his home.
Of what? Did it say of what?
I
Like
don't know.
suicides?
I don't know.
Was he suicided by a knife to the
Ah!
chest?
Sorry, hang on. I just got attacked by.
Chinese ambassador to Israel was found dead in his hotel room or house.
In his home north of Tel Aviv.
Shit,
no cause of death was given, and Israel police said it was investigating. Something's gone down there,
He
mate.
just got murdered.
Israel have just fucking killed him, and fucking because something was going on with China, and something is going to go down.
See, I don't think even Israel necessarily killed. So is he a Chinese ambassador to Israel?
Yeah.
Or the Israeli ambassador to China?
No, the Chinese. He's Mr. Du Wei or Wei Du or whatever his name
right,
is.
So
and
he's
he
dead.
lives in Tel Aviv in Israel, and he's Chinese, and he's obviously the Chinese ambassador for Israel. And fucking, he's been found dead. He's just dead. No death. No cause of death.
So you would think if he was killed by the Iranians, then they'd just take him. They would hide his body, and you'd never hear about him.
Listen to this. He was appointed ambassador to Israel in February, in the middle of this coronavirus pandemic.
Oh shit, man! He had a really rough couple of months then.
And previously served as China's envoy to the Ukraine. It's the dodgiest fucker.
He's a spy, man. I think he's a spy. Does he look like a spy? Has he got a picture of him?
Yeah, there's a picture of him. Yes, he looks like one of those sort of Chinese guys. He's old enough.
Looks like he could fuck you up.
It looks like he looks like a Yakuza, basically, even though he's Chinese.
Yeah. He's got that kind of stern, like, Chinese face where he's just like, and then thick grist from cooking. Yeah, you just kind of like, I'll fuck these guys.
For fucking slinging wok. Yeah.
Fucking the dudes. When I used to work at the Acropolis in Ormskirk, the fucking dudes who did Chinese there had forearms that I dream of. Their forearms just look like fucking bodybuilders. They just had
look
these
like
fucking
kebabs.
ripped forearms.
Yeah.
They were just
look like giant
so
kebabs.
veiny and muscly. They were just these fucking big, like you get with farmers and shit like that as well, where they just have these thick wrists, and you're just like, how the fuck did you get those?
Yeah.
It looks like you could just pull your arm off.
My dad had them.
Skinny wrists, man.
It's like giant fucking wrists from just like turning screws and fucking like screwdrivers all day and like wrenches and
shit,
in engine rooms and shit. Just building shit.
I get it.
Yeah.
But I've never got those, unfortunately. I've always had skinny. Yeah, real men. Like a different, like the previous generation.
We have
do get in this generation though. What did I see the other day?
We have excessively defined thumbs. That's what we have from video gaming. All our thumbs are very defined.
We all have like fucking curved spines from sat like rolling joints and watching TV, and we're just shit. Now what was I watching? I saw something the other day, and there was a guy on it. Was it Henry Cavill? It might not have been Henry Cavill, but it was someone like that, and they were the same age as me, and I'm just like, fuck off. Because I was just like, get fucked. I don't think it was Henry Cavill. It must have been, maybe he's 36. I don't think so. But
he's about 36, Henry Cavill.
Yeah, he's probably about that age, yeah. And I was just like, he looks like a man. He looks like a man, like he looks like a man of like the 1940s. Quite like tough and big, and I'm just like, he's my age. And I feel like a fucking 16-year-old, and look like a 16-year-old. So just like, we're just very, very different DNA. Unfortunately, I got the assassin DNA. He got the Spartan, Roman Viking warrior or whatever.
Yeah.
I definitely think when I was in, the pre-game before life, I think I chose the assassin character. I was like, just small and nimble, just,
I think I definitely chose the warrior, but I forgot to level up, I think.
See, I think you chose the warrior, but then you were like, but I want him to be a thinker as well. I give him thinking stats. I like him to draw. I feel like you lost it. You got too many, like...
I think I tried to spread it out too much,
Yeah, you spread out too much at the start of the game, and it just messed up your build.
I think that's definitely what happened to me.
Focus. I think we both did that, to be honest. I think I started as one thing, went, but I'd like him to. Yeah, you're actually right. He should be a thinker.
Yeah. I've always felt like that. Yeah. I've always felt like that. Yeah, fucking. Just like I've never. When you see some people, like normal people, I say like and it's just it's just someone who goes like, yeah, well, I knew I wanted to be a accountant or whatever the fucking thing it was, and that's what I did, and I went and I became an accountant, and that's it, and now I'm, and that's it. It's just like, I was like, how the fuck did these people, like, people who are a solicitor or a doctor or something like that, it's like, you just committed to that dead early on, and that's your entire life. I just found that the most boring idea ever, as a child even. And I guess that's why I never settled on any one thing.
See, I didn't even find it as a bad idea. I just never found the thing that I wanted to do that with.
Yeah, me too, I
once found the
suppose.
thing that I was like, I could do this forever. Because that's what I've always thought. I've said this to my mom a million times. Because she's like, just do the job that you enjoy at the moment. This is why I do the job I'm doing. Because I'm like, I don't think I could drive boats forever. I don't think it'll be there forever. It probably won't be there in a month. But yeah, I was just like, but I can do it for now, and then I'll find something else, because I don't think I'm ever I know people that start at the bank. They're like, in 5 years I'll be a mortgage manager, and then I'd like to move to an independent company, and then I'm gonna have a baby between 30. And I'm just like, fuck, your next 20 years are planned out. What are you gonna do then? I want to go on holiday. I really want to see this country and this country, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, I don't know what I'm doing next week. I'm not even sure what I'm having for tea most days.
Yeah.
But people are wired differently, I still think I'm just a bit of a man out of time. I think I was born in a slightly wrong generation. I think maybe if I was born like 100 years earlier, I'd have probably got more done. Or dead. I'd be dead. Probably dead. Yeah. Probably got involved in a war somewhere.
I think if I was born back then, or at any point further in history, I'd have probably got into a fight with someone and fucking died in some way, like just been killed.
Just died of a broken nose or something, yeah. Just like died of a scratch.
I think I'd have just I'd have got into a conflict or somewhat, or they'd have just like stabbed me or something, like or fucking, or I'd have been in fighting people and I'd have died that way, like just through fucking stupidity or something. I reckon.
You'd have probably just died of fucking like taking a shit one day and you just die.
Yeah. I definitely would have killed people, I reckon, as well. Definitely would have killed people, because I reckon, if you got into a situation, in these old TV shows or whatever, for old movies that you watch it, and someone like starts fucking trying to manipulate you or trick you out of something in those days, I'd just be like, well, I'll just fucking snap your neck and leave you in this fucking alleyway. And like, in the middle of London or something, and it's just this cobbled alleyway, and then fucking wait for some Bobby on the beat.
I do think that. When I started watching Narcos the other day, and they were showing the 1970s, I'm like, how did people not just kill all the time? Like, how people just go, oh, fuck you, just kill you. But I suppose the moral kind of standing in movies and violence and stuff, there's definitely something to be said for the fact that we're definitely more less sensitive to like violence and stuff than we were in the 1940s. When Psycho was first shown in cinemas, people freaked out over the fact there was a toilet in the scene.
Yeah, but I just reckon that's people who have never been exposed to violence. Like, I think most people who had been exposed to violence in those days would have just been like, yeah, whatever, it's some woman getting stabbed in a shower, so fucking what? Like, you know what I mean? I stab a woman every day in the shower. Like,
maybe not, though, because if you think about it, like, say you had some traumatic violence when you were a child. Nowadays, you'd see it every day, pretty much every day, or multiple times in a year, all the way up to the time you're 20. But if you didn't see that and you'd seen violence once or twice, and then the next time you see it's on a cinema screen, and it's like a jokey thing, then you'd be like, that's terrible. Why would you? I think even people that were less sensitive to violence would still be shocked to see it back in the 1940s. I think I think if you went back into 1940, you'd probably be a lot more cutthroat than a lot of people were then. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not sure. I think the modern sensibility, like a salesman that went back now would be like, I can crush this because I'll just cheat. I can get away with it. It's 1940s.
Yeah, I've often thought that. It's like watching that Last Kingdom. I was like, fucking, what could you achieve if you just appeared? You just ended up back in the 9th century or something, or the 10th century AD, and fucking you were just like medieval kind of England or something. It's like, just with your knowledge, just with the knowledge that you have, and you just landed.
I think I'd make it a week. As soon as there wasn't toilet roll, I'm out. Anytime pre-toilet roll, I'm not going back into that.
Let's say let's say you landed in some wood, and some fucking troop of guys came through, and women or whatever, some caravan comes through and goes oh, we're travelling to London or whatever, or to York or something, fucking, and we'll teach you everything you need to know about, eating and what to eat and how to shit and what to wipe your ass with. So you just fall in with someone. Yeah, you just fall in with them, and then you go, all right, that's cool, because I'm like a sorcerer and I know things about, or I'm a seer or something like that, and I know things about stuff, and so then you just go, right, I wonder what things you could achieve just from the knowledge of what you have, like, in your head right now, like, could you, just simple stuff like, knowing how to knowing how to fucking a compass or something like that, or knowing about magnetics.
Yeah. But
But you know what I mean?
Little I know that would be useful. I think I could show you how to set up an app on your phone. But, it's like
no, I think.
Also, I watched something the other day along the lines of that. Find out about the Jacobite king. I watched a thing about how far you could travel back in history with English and still be understood.
That's that fucking thing I was telling you about, mate. That's what I was telling you about, the fucking that website, that YouTube channel I was telling you about.
How was it?
Yeah, I told you about that about fucking 2 months ago. No,
I don't think it did. Maybe I did. Maybe I
it
just
did.
liked
It was like it's a whole
on
channel. It's got like all these weird lists and that. Like
Yeah.
well, that was one of them. How far you could go back. With
Yeah, and I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah, but yeah. So I'm just wondering. It's like, would you? Right, we have a lot of pointless information, but I just think we'd have a lot of common knowledge, which would help us survive. Like, as soon as there's a bit in this Last Kingdom actually, and they're like fucking, they have a random bit where they start going like loads of peasants are like fleeing somewhere, and they're just like, oh, it's the sickness, it's on the road, like, we got to get off the road and get away, and it's just like they're just like saying the way they understood it, they're going like, oh yeah, the sickness, it's on the wind. If you breathe it, like, you'll get sick and then you'll die, and like, your blood will start, you'll start shitting blood, and then you'll fucking puke and that, and you'll die in a few days, and then and I was like, that's interesting. I wonder what that's about, like, and then later on, like, they stumble across this like fucking river, and it's just full of bodies. And fucking, they don't mention it, they don't put it together or anything, but I was like, oh, that's what it is. It's like fucking, they were drinking water from
corpses,
all the people in the area from the bodies from this battle.
Probably is where the water is as well. The stream along
they just
the edge of the
didn't know, like, and that's why they've all got dysentery and they're shitting fucking, and they die basically because and I was just like, so that sort of information alone you'd just know that intrinsically, just ahead of them. They wouldn't put it together where you would, like, back in that sort of time period, I think.
Yeah, but there's also, I mean, like when I went to Africa, it's just some of the stuff they eat where they're perfectly comfortable eating it, and they could perfectly be okay. I think I would die within days of going back 100
Oh
years.
yeah, they'll all have bacteria and gut worms and weird shit that live in their fucking stomachs.
Annihilated. I think just taking a shit and then just carrying on with your day, not wiping, just like take a shit and then carry on. Want to go do some farming? You're like, you smell like, everyone would stink. It would just be awful. Even like the no one brushed their teeth. Not even like the fucking dignitary.
How itchy would your ass be?
Just
all the time,
just and sleeping with horses in hay, and just, oh man, it'd be my idea of hell.
Like, fucking hell! Even if you don't get a shower, even if you don't get to have a shower for like about 3 or 4 days, just for some reason, like, your ass is so fucking itchy, and you've been wiping that and doing everything, like, imagine if you just didn't even have bog roll and you just took a dump on the floor and just stood up and walked away.
Carried on with your day. Carried on with your day. And a month from then, you're going to have a bath. It might be the third person in the bath. It might be a bath in a river.
It's going to, unless, it's a crusted asshole that's already done 15 shits.
Asshole.
And like, there's another 15 to go before you get into a river.
Baggy, fucking, itchy trousers. Yeah, I mean, like the whole, like, it's them people that do reenactments. I'm like, why would you put yourself like that? Looks, and they're like, yeah, it's kind of uncomfortable, but I enjoy it. It makes me feel like I'm in character. I'm like, but you're putting yourself into like the worst part of history. Like, I can imagine if you're like in like feudal Japan, when you see the old Japanese, like, kind of like the dignitaries there, I'm like, I bet they smelled better. I bet they had like baths and, like, probably had some sort of mouth hygiene.
Can you imagine?
Stuff like that.
That's what must have been the
worst
thing.
Like, English kings, it's like, it's definitely going to be a lot more like King Baratheon, where they're all just fat, disgusting. They're not going to be clean and like, look, like all these European kings and stuff. Like, now they're going to be gross. Everything's going to, like, everything 200 years ago, everything was gross. You wouldn't find like a clean place.
I think it's like, that's the one thing I think we wouldn't survive is if you landed in York or in London or somewhere like that, you would just be immediately just like, I can't exist here because it just stinks
Yeah.
of piss and
It's
shit and
fucking
dead
disgusting.
bodies and fucking I'm puking every 2 minutes and fucking I can't eat because everything's covered in flies.
You know what it is like. Like there's breads, but the bread you buy on the streets like stale bread
It's
and like
literally
cheeses and meats.
rats
But the meats
the
will be
size of
like
cats.
flies. And, yeah, yeah, exactly. And like say like depending where you end up in, if you ended up like fucking industrial revolution with all the smog and the smoke and
Yeah.
fucking steam, like this just. Like I say, I mean, like when I watch like Hell on Wheels, it's one of the things I always think it's just like I would want no fucking toilet roll in the fucking desert and just riding up horses and sand and just it's just the worst. Like I say, it's like like you're never ever gonna go into a nice toilet. You know when you have them days when you have a traveling, I always find airports, you get some pretty decent toilets at airports sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll find a toilet that's like, it's a bit off the track, it's like down a random place where you kind of, there's a toilet there. And it's like, it's not on the main strip, they're all fucking gross, but you find one that's like quiet. It's like there's no one else in there, you can go take a big dump at 3 in the morning and you've been traveling for 12 hours or something.
Yeah.
But like you find that moment of peace, you would never find that moment in like 100 years ago. You'd never find that moment. I'm just going to chill out, unless you're like even the richest people in the world. I'm guessing didn't wipe their ass most of the time. Or if they did, they probably wiped it on a single piece of cloth that they reuse. Or even if they found something like that they didn't reuse, they'd probably just have a basket full of shitty cloths next to the toilet.
Used
You know
like,
what I mean? Like and
dock leaves or something.
And like what do they wash it down with? Like the toilet would be washed down with like a bucket and then wipe your ass.
It's just washing. It's just washing your hands just in water, basically, or sand.
Just the water.
Just
Water,
rub
sand.
your hand in sand, and just be like, there you go.
Or some sort of like powdered, soapy type thing. It makes you, your fingers just come, like your nails just constantly covered in shit. And nothing like I say, no toothbrush, no razors. Like old school razors just. So if you have a beard, then you've got a beard.
Basically,
Otherwise,
just
someone's gonna cut it.
Yeah, you basically just if you shave, you're shaving with a knife, basically, like.
Yeah. Shave with a knife, or like old school cutthroat razors.
I think that's why it used to be shaved in like Rome, wasn't it? Because it used to be the mark of their being civilized, and rich and stuff.
Your knife was sharp enough to shave yourself with.
Yeah, because you owned a knife and you owned someone who could shave you and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But anyone who had a beard was a heathen.
Yeah, that's me, heathen. I like my beard at the moment. I've got so many white hairs in the bottom of my beard.
Mine's ridiculous now.
I've had them for a long time. Like I've always had like white hairs for the last 5 years. But I've had like 2 really long ones that are very obvious and at the front. But I noticed this time there's probably 15 long ones, and so like it's just.
Yeah, I'm getting to the point.
The last time I grew up beard, so because I had a beard for a while and I've shaved it all off. It just seems this time to come back and be like, okay, well, because I spent a month shaving. So yeah, I think in the next 5 years I'll have a good grey patch.
Oh, I'm getting a good patch of grey appearing in mine, and look, weirdly, my actual head of hair isn't like hair on my head isn't fucking going grey.
I've not found any greys in my head.
It's not receding at all. So
I can see. Nope, mine's looking alright. Mine's looking pretty good. I mean, my mum was cut it recently, so it looks a bit fucking chopped, but it's about as good as it would be 100 years ago. But that's the thing, it's like nothing would be simple. But a bowl of cereal in the morning isn't a bowl of cereal in the morning. You're not eating cereal, you'd have toast or eggs or ham or whatever, potentially, if you're lucky, or you'd have gruel and porridge. And then you wouldn't have a lunch, and then you'd have like a fucking crazy feast or something. And let's say there'd be loads of stuff about living 100 years ago that I just could not deal with.
Yeah, I think as well, just like, just the medical thing. I think just like anytime anything was wrong with you, you just fucked. It's basically just like.
Oh yeah.
That's what life was like. It was basically just life was fine until something went wrong with you, and then you were just done. Didn't matter what it was.
Well, imagine if you turn up there and you're walking through the woods and you trip over and you like break your toe.
Yeah.
That toe is probably going to be amputated by someone with a knife. And no anesthetic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and then like cauterized, and then that's your toe from now on. That's like, it's not like you're getting like therapy and rehabilitation and stuff. And then like if it gets infected because everything's covered in piss and the floor's covered in piss and people throw piss out the window and like I say, everything I imagine is like the worst of it. But in like Victorian England,
that's what I mean.
What I think of just everything would have smelled like piss.
piss and shit, and just walking down the street, like, all those muddy streets are just, it'd just basically be a street of piss and shit. And so you
Yeah,
fucking,
pretty much.
your shoes would just smell of it, and your bottom of your cape would just
Yeah.
smell all the time of piss and shit,
And your
which
feet,
means
'cause-
yeah, and your
Well, you
feet.
don't have socks. It's not like you
Yeah,
got socks on.
yeah,
The
that's what I
leather
mean.
boots just see like there's a seeping moisture in the bottom of your boots every day, and it's just
It's just
shitty, pissy,
pissy shit.
seepy grossness. Yeah, yeah, pissy shit.
Diarrhea
exactly.
shit in your
Just horrible,
shoes.
awful crap all the time. Yeah,
Yeah.
it builds up, and you maybe wash them out in the bath after you've had it once a month. Then you put the same clothes back on. You probably wash the clothes. Do you wash the clothes first, or do you wash the clothes second? Do you wash you first?
Fuck
Then
knows.
you're gross.
What about, and people just, just the smelliness of people, I think, in general. I don't think we realise just how smelly people actually are.
Oh yeah.
Like, when, even if you're just in this day and age, it's like, you can barely handle fucking being near someone in a job for, like, by the end of the day because they stink, like, and then it's just like, fucking, imagine that. Fucking 40 days in or something, without a bath or something.
Yeah, plus if you get dropped into that age, you're instantly at a deficit because you haven't got any money for food and stuff. But even if you get dropped in with like provisions, you're still fucked because you wouldn't know how shit worked. How do you buy a house or a car or a maid or...
I don't know.
I wouldn't know how to do any of that shit.
I don't know. I think
have no idea. Like,
it feels
I don't know
like
how
it
to do
would be
now,
just
but I reckon I could
different.
find somebody who could tell me how to do it now.
Feels like I could just walk
yeah.
up to someone's house and just knock on the door and just go, I've got a bag of 30 pieces of silver coins here. Is this do you want this for your house? And they go, yeah, all right. Just walk off. They just buy their house off them. They just give you like a piece of paper, which was the deed or something. That was it. Or could you just go and just build a hut somewhere, like in a wood?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, again, 100. I don't know. 100 years ago is not that long.
Yeah.
1920, you couldn't. Jesus, 1920 is World War II. World War One, sorry. Or, end of. So, yeah.
But even
like I say, 1,000 years ago, yeah.
Because we don't realise just how long the idea of banking has existed, like, and people keep it owning and stuff like, it's like,
true.
it's been around for a fucking long time, like, even in like
400 or 500 years, yeah, I think.
crazy Middle
like
England.
modern day banking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, there's been money lenders since the Egyptian age, hasn't there? There's been currency since then.
That's what it is. So it's like,
I mean, I suppose then it was gold and precious things.
I guess there must have been, if someone owned some land back, let's say like 1,000 years ago, like so 1066, I assume, or 1020, 1020 or whatever. Let's assume there's like a fucking.
So this is like Viking era England.
Yeah. And so I'm assuming there's like lords and fucking whatever of certain areas, and then they're fighting out with Vikings or whatever. I don't know. Saxons, I don't know. Fucking.
Yeah, some of
like, so whose land? Could you just walk somewhere and just go, am I on someone's land here? Can I just build a hut? You know what I mean? In this wood, in this forest. And fucking. And I guess that's how it happened. It's like they just find somewhere and build a village. With like when they knew enough people, like, and they all got together and did that, and then some lord had just come along with an army and just go, well, you live on my land, so you owe me. You either fight for me or you owe me money now. No taxes, and it just built from there, didn't it? Like, I guess. And eventually, that town becomes a village becomes a town, and eventually it's a city, I guess.
Yeah, especially with something like that. Like, I'm sure very few people would be able, like, you wouldn't be able to just go out and build a house. Well, I mean, some people could, but most people couldn't, because you need people to help you build it. So maybe if you go there and you'd be like, right, we need to find someone to help us build this, and you go to the local town and be like, no, you can't do that. That's built on this person's land. But yeah, I think you're right because not Highlander, fucking goddamn, no, Braveheart. Has it where like the king turns up and is like, I'm the king and this is my province now, so I'm gonna have sex with your wife, and they're just like, well, we just live here. It's just their village, you know what I mean? It's like, it just happens to be within his province. They've never met the guy or had any conversation with him. There's just a village in the province. So yeah, interesting. I don't think I'd want to do it. I think I've always thought I'd rather travel into the future and see the unknown than to travel in the past and die in a shithole somewhere.
Also, I think as well.
Be useless at it.
Also, I think when you watch some of these things like Game of Thrones, when you see people doing stuff and they're just whispering at like someone's watching and sees them do it arriving. I just feel like you'd have the upper hand just on having all the movie knowledge that you have of like being able to trick people, and you'd just be so much cleverer than people though in those days. Where like
Yeah, you would be more like analytical. You'd be more eloquent, and like say, if you had a way to communicate with people,
I
I
just
think
mean
you can manipulate people better, and you could convince people better. And I
I
think
just mean
like I
like
say,
just
you'd be a
generally
bit
like
more
just
able.
you'd be able to fool people like a bit better just with like kind of like you wouldn't fall for tricks like things that would just they'd try and play a trick on you that they would just it would just flummox a fucking dumb peasant like, and you're just like, what the fuck are you doing? Trying to like make me like they go like, what's that behind you or something, you know what I mean, or something dumb like, they're just using basic
Yeah.
tricks compared to things you knew, like, and just like I said, I just like sometimes when you see these things and they're sneaking around and whispering to each other, and you just think, fucking, I think I'd just get away. I'd be more sneaky than the people of the day. I think.
But maybe it's like their kind of attributes should be different because the way people like they would
What?
know their game.
Mm,
You know what I mean? Like it's they would know of like how to do that. They might not know how to do maths, or like you might be able to convince them like, okay, so you said I said 100 gold, but then I also said that you owe me 10 gold, so that makes 80 gold, right? And they'd be like, yeah, yeah, because they wouldn't know maths, or they wouldn't,
yeah,
you could get away with and like tricks like that where someone tried to do on you, you'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's not, it's this.
yeah.
Like, can you not count? Are you retarded? Like, so it's just basic stuff, and like like but then, like again, like they built the fucking pyramids, so I don't know. Like I
Mm.
don't like it's kind of understood that. Well, as far as
Is
I understand it, it's
is
like people have got more intelligent as they've got. Is that the truth? It's like did they get to a point where we became like the IQ roughly is what it is now, but with different knowledge?
no. I think what it is, it's like we had knowledge back then. Like let's say Egyptian time, like masonry, for example, like building pyramids and stuff. That's knowledge that was kept secret. From not everyone knew it. It wasn't like the whole fucking every peasant knew fucking how to build a pyramid. Like I imagine it's
Hmm.
like takes knowledgeable people to make it happen. And like
Yeah,
fucking
of
to
course.
design it and all this shit. Like that's assuming people built it. Whatever. But
Yeah, yeah,
fucking and
yeah.
then we have the Dark Ages. And then we have the Renaissance, and people had to relearn a lot of that info. But I think that's the sort of shit that they kept secret. All these secret societies. It's all the ancient knowledge.
Well, I
It's all
don't
the
even think
stuff.
it's necessarily. I mean, yes, definitely ancient knowledge, but also if there's a builder that can build the pyramids and knows how to do it, he's not going to tell people because he's the guy that's like building it. Like like that
Yeah.
would be like if someone like the guy the guy that painted the Sistine Chapel, that guy,
Yeah. Yeah.
Michelangelo.
His name, yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah. Oh Mike.
but, oh, Mikey Mike.
Mike
But I was going
Angie.
to say the guy that designs like any temple or anything like that. If he's got this amazing design that people are like that's the most beautiful thing in the world, he's not going to then tell people exactly how he did everything, so
Mm.
they can just replicate it everywhere, and everyone can do that, and it becomes a new style. They can obviously see it, but then it's then their interpretation of it. It's like any master of anything isn't necessarily going to share it. But yeah,
Well, I
the
suppose that's
pyramids
how it
are
becomes
definitely for
secret
me
knowledge,
the
though.
truth.
It's like fucking.
Yeah.
Well, it's like battles, fucking. They sack a city, and the only people that lived were the Masons, so they could rebuild the city. So they didn't put them to the sword, and that's how stonemasons. That's how masonry became like a secret society,
Yeah,
kind
true.
of, isn't it? Because
I'd hate to live in a world without conspiracies and crazy, like
no,
especially the
yeah,
pyramids. I find the pyramids the most fascinating thing because it's just this unanswered question. But I do like kind of love the fact that yeah, it exists in this world
yeah.
because it's just insane, a little bit ridiculous.
Just the fact when you think back that like into history, and you think did some fucking mental shit back then, and like built some weird
Oh
shit, and,
yeah,
and fucking had some really weird ideas, and I don't think we know about it enough anymore. Like it's in fact that's what this Last Kingdom's a lot about. He's like he's the first king to start writing stuff down, and taking historical
yeah, yeah,
record of
yeah.
things. And he's just like, if you don't write it down, it doesn't happen. It never
It
happened.
hasn't existed.
It's
Yeah.
forgotten. And like so, and like I just thought that's quite an interesting idea. That it's like all the knowledge. It's like did like what the fucking Library of Alexandria, getting burnt and all that. It's like what was
Yeah,
lost,
yeah.
what knowledge was lost.
Yeah, because that's the thing as well. It's like that's the whole idea of like powerful men. It's like you've got to be at the top 1%. 1,000 years from now, I mean, there'll be social media and they'll be in the cloud and stuff, and so I'm guessing it's going to change its stuff. But the
Yeah.
average person like me or you wouldn't necessarily exist unless we make some sort of world-changing decision in our life.
Mm.
Then we don't exist. Whereas, like, Barack Obama exists. But nowadays, obviously, there'll be some sort of pattern, but it'll be very hard to find. It's not like people are going to be looking up Chris McPhee's Instagram. I've got some nice holiday pictures on there, but there's nothing world changing about it. But yeah, I suppose back then there wasn't like short of writing it down. I guess those cave paintings probably represent specific people to the people that paint them, but you'd never understand them. But yeah, it's not until, well, like say, about 2,000-3,000 years ago, where people were like, should we write this down? Because all their magical previous universe iPads had died and been buried in the ground.
Imagine it's just like mortality is probably a big thing as well. Just the fact that like, oh, we could die at the drop of a hat. We could basically just shit ourselves and die. So
yeah. I could get a sniffle one day and be dead the next.
That's it. So it's like what, and then we just cease to exist, and the only people that will remember you will be your friends or your family, and then after a generation or two, you're gone forever. No one remembers your name. And then you're done, and it's like fucking let's build a pyramid. Like, well, fucking remember my name now.
I heard this thing, and I can't remember what it's from now, but I've got it written down where it's from anyway. But it says you actually die twice. You die once when your body passes, and once when the last person that knew you says your name for the last time.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah.
It's like the last person knows you, like the last person to remember you says thinks about you. That's the last time you exist. Yeah. And after that, they're like, oh, what? It's a shame what happened to Dan.
Well, that's kind of the interesting thing.
When they die, you don't exist ever again.
It's like kind of American Gods or something, or I think something along those lines. It's like fucking
yeah, American Gods like that, yeah.
Yeah, like does that mean like someone like say Achilles? He exists still, and
yeah.
Because people have talked about his name for thousands of years,
Yeah.
It's like
Plato or Bruce Lee.
They've heard the stories, and just like people who actually we know have existed, and we know what they look like Bruce Lee. It's like he's going to exist. He's immortal now.
Oh yeah, people 1,000 years from now will still be going to fancy dress. Well, I suppose they'll be going to fancy dress parties in like the Oasis, dressed as Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like 100%, or fucking Ronald Reagan or Hitler or whoever. There's people that have definitely stamped history in their time. 100%.
Yeah.
They'll be remembered forever. I think everyone that's remembered now will essentially be remembered forever. Everyone that we already know of will be remembered forever, like the Teslas and the so on and so on.
I think imagine this though, right?
Be remembered forever is insane.
Imagine this though, like fucking everyone who exists now will be remembered forever, like us, because we're the first ones that have been recorded digitally, like kind of,
Digitally,
it's like
we're the first generation of techniques.
Something will exist, digital record, technically for as long as our race exists.
I weirdly enough, I saw, what was it on? Something about this as well, where they were talking about your digital ghost. It's like when people die, like when people lose their families, their child's Facebook page or their wife or their whoever still exists, and their Instagram still exists. You know what I mean? And they can go on there and they can look at old pictures of them and talk about what it was. And some people will be
it's like my dad still exists on Facebook. I'm still friends with him on Facebook, but I could go on his page if I wanted to. It's fucking creepy, it's weird.
It's like I say, it's their digital ghost. And we'll all have that once, like 1,000 years from now, there'll be Facebook. Well,
that's funny. Just before I forget,
we've all got. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, just before I forget, fucking just when you said then, like I read a thing about, or I heard a thing in the podcast. Someone was saying there's like a digital version of everyone who doesn't exist on Facebook. So they've actually got like they've extrapolated from. Let's say I wasn't on Facebook. It's like they'd be able to extrapolate from your Facebook and everyone who knows me or is my family member and establish that I exist because I might be on a photograph here or there and I'm not tagged, so they go, well, who's that person who's not tagged, and they work out So they've got like
I
false.
can believe that. I can
Yeah,
believe
they've
that.
got like a false profile. A ghost profile that already exists of you. Like behind the scenes. Before you even create your profile. Wow.
Hmm.
I can buy that. Yeah, it sounds like something they've gone.
100%.
This
100%.
guy
I can buy
exists
that.
because he's on all these
Yeah.
photos, and this person, mentions them in this thing, but they're not tagged.
Do you
So
remember, like back in the conspiracy days when we used to see all that stuff about lawful like
mm,
rights and legal rights and all
yeah,
that sort of crazy shit and all
yeah,
that
yeah.
kind of like, are you a person or are you your the name on
Mm.
all capital letters,
Free Malala
Christopher
and stuff.
J. Murphy or yeah. That just came to me then where I'm just like, yeah, I can believe that we're all just some digital fucking
Yeah,
mainframe version of ourselves. It's
yeah,
the world is entirely like that. It's
yeah,
insane.
yeah. We'll be the first ones to like. Will exist
Yeah,
forever,
no, I've never
technically.
thought about like our generation, like anybody that was born, because we were born like our births aren't on there. Oh, I'm sure there's pictures of them, but like it's like we weren't born onto Facebook, whereas like
Ah.
we've seen the first generation born onto Facebook
Hmm.
or born onto. But I suppose we weren't even born onto MySpace. We weren't like
Imagine,
I wasn't. The internet wasn't a thing when I was a kid. Like
yeah.
people had it, but it wasn't like it wasn't. No
Imagine
one
in the future,
expected everybody to have it.
it's like 1,000 years from now. Like, I mean, search and Google and the internet, and blah blah blah. It doesn't matter wherever it goes. Who knows? But someone will be able to, in 1,000 years, type your name for some reason into whatever Google is then, and
Hmm.
fucking they'll get a record of your existence, of you. They might even get photos of you from your fucking Facebook and blah blah blah. And like be able to sort of like have there'll be an actual existence, proof of your existence, and it's sort of like we are the first generation that will happen. You can
Oh yeah,
Google
totally.
people who've existed. You can Google fucking like Abraham Lincoln, whatever,
Yeah.
and you can see
Yeah,
photos
yeah,
of him.
totally.
But you can't
But
Google
you
like
couldn't, you couldn't, yeah, you couldn't
yeah,
type just a name of someone
yeah,
you knew lived in
yeah. You couldn't go back
1920s
down your
London.
family tree and fucking find like and shit like this. It's like
Inverness
the fact
Shire.
that it's like it's like why has it been made that family names are unimportant anymore? It's like we've been bred to have it bred out of us so that we don't challenge the
So
ones
many
that.
kids grew up with arsehole parents, mate. We just went like, we're all right, but like any generation previous to us, parents were shit to kids. I think. I think that's the basic
Yeah.
of it. People were just like, "Fuck my name, you're an arsehole." Parents
It just
suck.
feels to me though, but it's like the fact that all these clans, we're all clan names. We clearly had we're probably like from a ruling family, because we're quite famous names. So it's like, but it's the ones that failed, So like they lost the battles and got killed and whatever, and we're just random, survivors that didn't die,
Yeah.
but carried the name on, and
Oh
then
yeah, we're all
fucking
bastard sons anyway. Like
yeah, but
by this
that's
point,
it. But we never
we
got our
must all be
power back.
bastard sons.
We never won
Yeah.
our power back. That's why we're not in power now. But the ones that are in power now, like the royal families, the world, and whatever, they're the ones that didn't lose their power. They're the ones that won the battles. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's
But
just
that's
the
the
kind
thing.
of
It's
weird
like
thing.
they don't not only they won the battles, but yeah, they weren't foot soldiers, and they weren't like
Yeah,
they can,
that's it.
or even if like say someone was a foot soldier in 1,000 years ago, someone was a foot soldier and like kicked ass in that battle, and like the person next to him was my ancestor, and he was like he did all right, but that guy did really well, and then that guy was like spoke to the right person at the right time and was putting like actually I saw you in battle, you were good, you're leading this army now, and he won that battle, and he went off one way, whereas the other guy just like got married and died and shot himself to death. As I assume everyone shot
Most
themselves to
people
death.
did, like
Yeah.
back then.
Most people shot or puked themselves into oblivion by the age of 35.
Yeah,
By the age we are now, we'd be like old men. We'd be sitting
yeah.
here like, I remember when I was a boy, because we're all from the South. But
Yeah.
but yeah, it's like this person won a battle or did something interesting or impressed somebody, and then like they got to fuck a queen or something or princess,
Mm.
and then that like because I mean like people who were peasants in Egypt, their family could have been rich and famous 100 years later. Whereas
Mm.
like now, if you're not, if you're like yeah, you can probably become famous from being like like an actor or a singer and stuff. But I suppose it's different now. But in say 100 years ago, you couldn't just become famous. I mean, you had to be amazing at something.
It
Whereas
feels though
nowadays,
like back
obviously, it's
in.
gone the other way
It
around.
feels like back. Yeah, I know. It doesn't matter. Fuck it. But yeah, it feels like fucking hundreds of years ago, you could have just become something like back. Let's say Egypt or something. It's like you could have easily
Mhm.
just, or maybe not in Egypt, but around that sort of time period. It feels like you could have just gone. Well, I'll just if I just won a battle, if I just survived a battle and
Yeah,
just found like a load of gold somehow,
yeah,
and fucking then I could just then and then 100 years later, my fucking everyone who was in my family is now like a lord of that area,
yeah,
and then fucking like eventually they're a king, like 500 years later or something, but.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
just because this one
Well,
dude
imagine.
fucking killed someone with a sword dead well. Because it feels to me, sorry, just feels to me like all the ruling families kind of started with what is that film? Or it's a film or a TV show? Something that it says on it. It's like everyone starts with a big fucker with a sword, like who was good at killing people. I think it's Game of Thrones.
I think
It's,
it is Game of
yeah, I think
Thrones.
it's
Yeah,
Bronn
yeah,
says it. Yeah, it all starts with just someone who was just really good at killing people, like and then they got power and wealth, and
yeah.
eventually they.
Yeah, I think it's someone like they're talking about like, oh, you're meant
I
to
think
be
it's
a king.
Bronn.
It's like
I think it's
all
Bronn
kings
who says it.
start as yeah,
Yeah, he
yeah.
said
It could be Bronn.
all
Yeah,
things starts as cutthroats. Someone who was good at killing, or
yeah,
something like that. Yeah.
yeah, something like that. Yeah, because the biggest guy kills the other guy or something like that. Yeah, yeah. No, that's true. That's actually a valid point. And I
Yeah.
think that's the thing. It's like it's weird because I'm sure there was amazingly talented people that were kind of like musicians and stuff. I'm sure that was still, but it'd be a completely different sound where at a completely different level. I also think like it's interesting because I don't know how intelligent someone would be in the
Mm.
Victorian era, like how like generally their ability to learn,
Yeah,
because
but
like
how
you know what I mean, like I don't know how
baseline
like
dumb are they with like religion
yeah.
just in their head constantly and just ruling everything they think and do?
Yeah, religion and like like the jobs, like unless
Superstition.
you're like potentially even if you're a builder, it's not like you're doing advanced like I found a new way to make a joint and do this blah
Yeah,
blah. Like this is the way it's
they,
been done for the last
but
20
if
years.
just
This
if
is
he
how
was a
mom and dad told me to do
yeah,
it.
someone was like a baker or something, he'd only know how to make bread and then he'd literally have no other, wouldn't even know
Yeah,
how to fucking open a
yeah. You can maybe
fucking
make 10 tapes of bread, but then like someone said, "Can you make me a cheese pasty?" And they're like, "What do you mean?" Like, "Oh, you get cheese and you put it inside and you bake it all." They're like, "That's insane.
yeah,
What's
he'd be like,
pastry?"
you've just
Like
invented an
they've never
incredible
even
thing.
heard of pastry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but that's
like
what I
oh
mean.
my
You could
god,
probably
I'm
take
going
over
to
the
eat
world.
yummy on this motherfucker.
Just
It's
take
like,
over just by walking into a baker's shop and giving him the recipe for a fucking like Cornish pasty, and then he'd be like,
or
"That's
even
fucking
just like a
amazing."
glaze or something, just like this
Yeah,
this glaze you can make yum yums.
but how
It's like
many?
oh yeah, like you say, like a Cornish pasty. Yeah,
So I mean,
a sour Cornish
how many
pasty.
areas of the world could you just take over because you could just go, oh well, I just know if I buy loads of this shit here and sell it here, that means people could do that, something.
One thing, like you were saying, if you went back in time, you could just go to like a butcher and just be like, okay, if you cover all your meat in salt, it'll store it. You can store it in salt, and they'd be like, what? And I'm like, yeah, it
Yeah,
won't go as rotten. Like if you went back, I mean, I'm guessing probably they
I
know
feel like they've
that a
known
long
that for
time
a
ago.
long time.
They've
Like,
probably known that since caveman era, haven't they? Really, I guess.
yeah,
Um, yeah.
but,
But yeah, like I say, I think it'd still be terrible and
it's like
daunting.
that's what
It
I mean.
might be fun to visit.
Like agriculture, that feels to me like if someone just came along and just went, if you plant those things in the ground in a certain time, it'll do this, and then if you cut it all down and do that, and then crush up this thing and turn it into that, like and then you can bake it, and then fucking it's bread.
Yeah, yeah,
You'd be like, what? How the fuck did anyone come up with that without being told it?
yeah. It's kind of insane how random shit. Like they probably chewed on the grain and went, that doesn't taste very nice. Maybe if we grind it up, we can chew on it. I'm like, now it's just powder. It just tastes powdery. Maybe
When the
if we add
fuck did
water
they
to
have
it.
time to do this when they were like starving to death and fucking, it's like how much when was
Well,
food
they're
so
probably just doing
plentiful?
it. They're probably doing it like no, because they would have had mainly like possibly meat and berries, foliage type shit, and they probably just got sick of eating like fucking seeds and just
Let's
be like,
see
you know
what
what?
happens if this grows.
I'm gonna mix this seed up with that berry and a bit of water, and then
See
they're
if I
like, oh, and
die.
they made the first like energy bar, like
Yeah.
they had some nice blueberries. They mixed up with a bit of
Surely
oats and a
though,
bit of water.
all this
A
shit
bit of
is
like
just kind of like I'm just
fucking
gonna eat this and see if I die. Like no one's ever eaten this
there was definitely a
before.
point in time where they would just have to be like, I'm going to see this. It's either going to trip balls and die. I'm
Yeah,
just going to shit myself and die. I'm going
yeah.
to have the worst pain ever and die. Going to be crippled and die. Or it might taste okay. Oh, no, it won't even taste okay. It'll taste like shit and I'll probably live. Like it's one
So
of
I
them.
mean,
And
how
then,
did? they
Well, it
ever
tastes
get
like
to
tea.
bread.
Well, I feel fine, and then 2 days later, everybody in the town's dead.
I
So,
mean,
yeah.
that's why I don't understand how they ever got to bread. From like agriculture and all this shit, and like it's so many steps in that I don't see how they ever got to it. It's so
I imagine
bizarre.
that,
Without
I
someone
imagine
telling you, if you do all these steps, it becomes bread.
No, see, I think like I agree that I assume that there was many steps, but I think probably they harvested the wild corn, like the original old school
Yeah,
shit that we
it's
used to
just
get as kids.
growing. Yeah.
They harvested some wild corn, like um, or oats or whatever. Probably had them with like say, if you mash them up with water, most things they'd be like it's a hard berry. You'll mush it up and make some sort of paste. Because I imagine everything was just like a falafel back in them days. Just, like what I mean, like food wasn't going to be like, oh, I made you a nice steak and we've got some lovely like
Yeah, it's
cut
just
thing. It'd be
eat
just like
as much of
here's a
these
bowl
berries
of
and weird
food.
shit.
Yeah,
Like,
so
yeah.
it's got some stones in it and it's got twigs and shit, and you can chew on the twigs. That gives you like a bit of, I imagine like at this age, and then someone was like, we can grind this up and make a powder out of it, probably to transport, so we can take it with us and we can mix this with water and stones from the floor, and it makes a slightly nicer terrible paste. And then maybe someone when the fire was around, they had this like ball of gooey terrible paste near a fire, and they went, actually, if we cook it, it tastes good. And then someone was like, I've got some peanut butter. Put the peanut butter on it.
Got some Nutella.
and someone was like, I crushed up some berries, and then like the first peanut butter sandwich was made, and they were like, cavemen, oh, this is good peanut butter sandwich. Yeah, I think I assume it went roughly along that track.
It probably happened exactly that way. I think.
You can see it though, right? Because peanut butter is just peanuts, right? You just crumble up peanuts, mix it with water. That'd make a peanut butter.
But
it's
this
passable peanut butter.
thing is, in the middle of this story, that guy, in the middle of all this, that guy that came up with the peanut butter had also invented butter. Just in the middle of that.
It's a basic form. He got some oil from an old pig that he killed. He'd squeezed out some fat from the meat before he'd cooked it because he'd learned to cook.
Imagine if
this is just after fire. This fire was a couple of weeks ago. And it's like, I've just made peanut butter, guys. I've just fucking fuck fire. Fire's old news.
Imagine if they invented bread just because this guy had invented peanut butter. And then, right,
we need something to spread it on.
Gotta invent something
spread it on twigs.
That'll mix with this.
Oats together with some berries, and oh my god. Yeah, I can imagine if you just got imagine if you went to Whole Foods or like some British version of that. And got loads and loads of just berries and nuts and stuff that you could find in the foliage like that.
Mashed it all together. Yeah.
Just mash that shit together and make it into a ball.
Yeah,
I bet it tastes
in one of those pestle and mortar bowls that they always see them crushing stuff up in things.
Yeah, just mush that. Because they just do it on a rock with another rock, but they're used to eating rocks.
They've always got a bowl and a wooden spoon of some sort, and
they'd have a leaf. They'd have a leaf. They could just put it all in the leaf and just crush it up, and then bang it on a rock a little bit, and then crush it up a little bit more and bang it on a rock, and then you've got like a little parcel that you can carry around in its own little leaf, like its own little packet. Fucking scrub your face, throw it on the floor. Don't flicks it up.
Yeah.
I didn't have a dog. They're wolf or saber-toothed tiger. I don't know what.
Yeah, I don't think they'd have been dogs yet. I think they'd have just been wolves.
But yeah, that's how I think bread was invented. I think it was originally like a sourdough, like a non-cooked sourdough that they made, but not like a sourdough.
There's probably
mush with oats.
Probably a lot of documentary. We could probably watch an entire documentary on this subject and find out pretty quickly.
We should. This should be like the homework for next week.
Next podcast, you have to know how bread was invented.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're all about agriculture.
Or we could just discuss. This is a really good idea for a podcast. It's like by next week we're going to talk about how bread was made.
Yeah, by the end of the one podcast, you discover what you actually didn't know from the conversation that we fucking talked about.
Yeah,
and then find it out by next week.
Take a subject each. So like by next week, my job is to it's just a way to become better. It's a way to become that famous podcast.
How much bullshit you filled in, like in the middle of this conversation.
Yeah, because it's quite good. Because you're like, also you've got something to come into the next episode. So when you get like a dry moment, you go. So anyway, learn about bread this week.
Bread.
Anyway, bread. So
and the ratings go through the roof.
Learn about like what they believe the first inventions of bread. I'm guessing it started somewhere hot, where they left this mush outside. They didn't even have fire
in the desert somewhere.
The mush. They made some sort of mush, left it outside. It might have been even made to like, we'll make bricks out of it or some sort of
I
shelter.
reckon
Or,
they probably just
actually,
left
smells
it.
like
You know,
cookies.
we've made
It
this
smells like
mush. I don't know
cookies.
what to do with it. I'm just going to leave
Yeah.
it here in the
Because they
sun.
used to dry stuff on rocks. I'm sure it was. I'm now starting to come back to me. I feel like it's like a dough where they make like a little clay hut over it, and they put it in the dry sun and just leave it to bake in the dry sun. It's like a hard bread from like India. I'm sure it is.
Yeah, it feels like it would
Name
all
for it.
just be like a kind of. It would all be like a kind of ciabatta bread in a sort of way.
Yeah,
like a
totally.
big rock hard.
Like cooked in the sun, so a bit stale.
Well, every
Stale
time
ciabatta.
someone hands bread in like one of these old like medieval films or something, they always
It's
hand
always
them like
rock
a
solid.
rock hard chunk of fucking shit
always
that's
like, "Here,
like black.
have
Like
some
it's
bread."
just like
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
like,
no,
what the
totally.
fuck is that? It's a bit of bread.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bread, and they break off. It's like, it's like, is that crusty all the way through?
Yeah.
Is that meant to be crusty on the outside? Or, yeah, no, it does. I remember when I was a kid, my dad used to buy those bread. Like he used to buy, like he likes crusty loaves for his like bacon sandwiches, and I'd always think like you'd bite into it and just like tear the top of your mouth open.
Yeah.
This bread was just like the
Rock
crustiest
hard,
fucking.
like yeah,
He loved
sharp,
it. He'd love it.
rock hard
And I
bread.
remember,
Like
can we not just get some soft buns? He's like, no, you get like it's like a full meal, just the bread, and you're just like chewing through these like
yeah, it's
solid
rock.
layers
It's
of bread.
just yeah, it's
I
like
remember that so much as a kid.
meat
Yeah.
almost. It's so
Yeah.
hard. Like, yeah.
On crusty loaves, crusty bread, crusty rolls. Yeah, I remember that. It's
Good
weird.
times. Yeah, that's
I won't be allowed crusty rolls forever.
that's origin of bread for you there.
Yeah, I'm gonna find out about origin of bread. I think it's that, but I'm gonna check. That's my.
I really want to know
take
more
away from
about
this one.
agriculture in general because, like I said, I really like the idea of like that feels like the information that was just handed to people from from like a species from before, like like humans that came before from Atlantis or something. They just the civilization that fell, you know what I mean? Just handed us the knowledge and went around the world just giving it to different tribes all around the world. Just kind of here's agriculture, this is how you grow shit, stop being hunter and gatherers. You know,
Yeah.
so that civilization
Yeah.
could begin, because that's the beginning of civilization. People started getting together in villages and stuff to help grow shit. You know what I mean? Feed each other. It feels like
Yeah, well, that's it. They collect together in an area of like ripe fruit and land. So like anywhere that's good, they'll be like, we'll just hang out here, and then other people come along and they hang out. Yeah.
so maybe just the fact that it was just seemed like that I've heard stuff about it, conspiracy things. Just like how it just appeared, like across over the course of like 1,000 years or whatever, like however long it was. Everyone across the world just learned how to do it in fucking a very short space of time. And like, it's just like, it feels like something that was just given to them. There wasn't enough time for them to experiment to discover it.
I think it was that vegan documentary actually, but they talked about how agriculture was like almost like a mistake. So some people would settle in one area and then start create like they'd find a couple of pigs or whatever, so they'd find a way to look after those pigs, and like they had a few plants, so they'd plant these things, and then it would create like population growth in that area because people were like a bit more plenty, they had what they needed, and so they'd have more population. But then they needed more fields to do it, and it became like a rolling thing where it got to the point where they couldn't then go back to hunter-gatherers. So I think it started with people like nomadic tribes that traveled to one place and each winter would stay there.
So they stopped leaving then. They just stayed.
And they stopped leaving, and it got to a point where they couldn't then, what I mean, because it wasn't sustainable. But also the fact that their diets became so much less diverse that actually people become more unhealthy. So they're like, and obviously a lot of the older generations die off and stuff. But yeah, they become a lot more healthy because there's more mouths to feed. You're eating a less diverse diet because you're not getting berries from the south of England and then going up to the east and getting fucking, I don't know, twigs and stuff to make your bread.
Twigs, yeah.
I'm guessing that I suppose it was monkeys. I would still like to fully understand. I think until humanity fully understand the full evolution from whatever it was to us talking on my headset as I walk around my room in a fucking hoodie, and like I've got Marvel Guardians of the Galaxy on the TV, smoking headlights on a boat in York.
Yeah.
London, Leeds, and York.
All over the place. They're all over the country.
And you're in Liverpool. Yeah. All the L's.
That is, it's like incredible.
How did we get from like shitting in a tree?
Not even that long ago. But even like fucking like I said, watching that Last Kingdom again, it's like they're sending letters. They don't know information that's happening just down the fucking road, like, you know, and stuff like this. And it's just like they need someone to send someone to tell someone something, otherwise they don't know it.
Oh yeah.
And then like
go on.
Yeah, no, it's just like that. I find really interesting, and you know how the fact that we've gone from that, even just less than 1,000 years ago, less than 200 years ago, you know, fucking no one knew what the fuck was going on unless a ship came into harbour and went, fucking this has happened in this country, in England or something, you know.
Yeah, it's kind of fucked up.
Now it's like, yeah, we're actually talking and we're on the other side of the country. World.
On the other side of the world.
Doesn't make any difference. It may as well be, isn't it? It's like that's how crazy it is. It's like, yeah.
Like I say, I'm still not entirely convinced you exist. I'm not entirely convinced that we're not all in our own individual matrices. Because all you need is maybe that's the thing. Maybe they lost the broadband, and everyone's got like a little bit of hard drive they can use, but it's like it shows this part of the world, and you can make anything you want in this part of the world, but it doesn't have to then like do massive vistas and stuff.
You know, you reckon like, so we're in a simulation and something's gone wrong with the simulation, and so they've locked everyone down.
So it can't have everybody on sharing.
Yeah. Well, it's like
everyone's got like we're all like incompatible. You can go into others' world, but while you're in the it's trying to use like it's basic
processing power. Yeah, it's like that Rick and Morty one where they get stuck in that simulation, and he goes and he starts fucking making it compute too much stuff, and he's going like, so everyone with the name beginning with R who was born before the fucking first thing, you just walk in a circle with your hand in the air, like, you know, and it just the whole thing just crashes, and then he goes, get off the ship, we can leave. But,
that one. I forgot about that episode. I was like, which one? And then you start saying, I'm like, oh yeah, everyone with the blue hair and red tops, and like one on Tuesday, one day the girl called Stephen.
Yeah, walk in a circle the same number of times as the square root of pi, like, or something like. It's just like fucking the whole thing just goes.
Yeah, I think that's what I think we are. That's my new theory on it. It's like, you know, I exist in the bubble of like Fulford.
Potentially, I could drive to yours, and our simulations could combine. But if everyone was doing that at the same time, like normal, it would crash the system.
Not to mention, it's like, you know, if I'm playing on my, it has to be online, and Gil's playing with me. So if I go onto like a battle royale, you know what I mean? So it's like, you know, it's kind of like York in the city center, like that's part of the simulation. Just starts seeing glitches, start seeing like two cats walk past the same corridor. Matrix difference. Or the same cat walk past the corridor twice. But yes, maybe that's it. Maybe that could be the thing. Or none of us exist, and like this is literally like a Truman Show for just like maybe we've never existed. Maybe we're woken up now, and this is like the world we think.
I think something weird has gone on.
City / Truman Show.
Yeah, I think something weird's gone on in the middle of this lockdown because everyone's feeling tired and weird. I know it's normal, but at the same time, I've had some really weird nights, like sleeping, you know, and woken up feeling awfully strange, and you know, and I think it's like it could have happened in one of those nights where we've been shifted into like another reality or into like the simulation or something. The simulation. Oh, the simulation.
Imagine like, there's a Japanese guy. Japanese is the only language I think I could learn just because I talk.
You sound amazing. Yeah, everyone sounds amazing. Why have they got such deep voices for like such small people? Cool. They just all sound insane. Yeah. But then you get those guys that are just like,
I'd learn that. Exactly. That full on like emperor bad guy at the end. Yeah, fucking right. I don't know what I'm saying, but I'm probably like badass. I'm probably perfect.
Probably said something very racist, no doubt.
I'll probably just like I learned.
Whole thing was racist, probably.
Yeah, yeah.
Fuck it.
I was definitely racist because I don't know Japanese, so it was definitely just made up. But
Yeah.
yeah, I also thought like, imagine the amount of recorded information has been taken since the lockdown, like extra, like the amount of people,
Yeah.
not just like I think one of the most interesting things about the modern age that we're going into is the ability to copy people, like with this fucking fake
Yeah.
deep fakes and faces and stuff, and like
Document
you can put like
everything people could possibly
celebrities'
say.
faces on porn and shit like that. It's like you could have recorded me, you for the last 3 weeks, and you've definitely got enough to put in call words. Not even just the words we've actually said in the order we said them in, but you could change it enough that you could pretty much say anything. We could have said so many terrible things. I mean, we've said enough terrible things, but they could make it so we said, like, like we're going to blow up Parliament.
Which you
Like
just
that, for
said
example,
anyway.
could just be taken out of context. But you know what I mean? Like, yeah, that was the point I was making. Is like, you could definitely piece that together.
That one's for free for them. They could use that one for free.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't want to. I don't want to blow up Parliament. That's what I'm saying.
It's too late.
But you know, what I mean, again, you could have taken that, and they could just be like, just use the end.
Just like, and just if you saying that, just I don't want to say it now.
That's
how bad it is.
Like anybody
I don't ever want to say it.
I don't want to do that. I don't. I'm just not. I'm never gonna. I'm not going to. I'm not going to blow up. Okay, stop. Just because I do feel like we're definitely minister. But yeah, there's enough recorded information from like everybody.
Now.
Like there's no like Tinder and Zoom must be getting mad bucks for all the secret information being accidentally leaked.
Well, what have they said? It's like it's already in this century alone. We've taken more photographs and videos than were taken in all of human history. Like just in the 20 years of this century, and I wouldn't be surprised.
Mobile phones alone,
yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if 10% of that now has been just during this lockdown.
Just quarantine photos.
What are
people Instagramming about in quarantine?
Yeah, that's.
Maybe a nice sunset or like a beer or something, but yeah, there's nothing. It's not like, oh, look at me, LOL, I got all dressed up to watch TV in my bedroom.
Yeah. But people are fucking vlogging and talking shit online and podcasting and all this stuff. Everyone's doing it now because no one's got anything left to do. No one's doing anything.
Yeah, that's true.
Not everyone. I'm not doing it, but you know what I mean. It's like all the famous people. Just fucking got nothing to do.
I saw there was a Smallville reunion on like a Zoom thing, thing the other day, and I'm just like I would love it if they had them all in it, but because obviously that chick was like a sex cultist, and I'm like, I'd like to see that podcast.
Yeah, that was interesting.
She wasn't in it.
Yeah, it's
like, that in the documentary actually. We forgot to
remember that when that news report
was.
I remember hearing about it.
Seeing about it. Yeah, I remember seeing about it. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, it was some crazy weird sex cult. That's strange, that is. Yeah, it's strange.
That's it right there. That's
but it's also
laid open.
Yeah, maybe.
Laid bare.
Yeah, potentially. That feels like almost an offshoot of it. It's like, well, we know what they get away with. They know what they did to us. We'll just do it, and they're not going to bother us because we're doing it. And it's like they're at a lower level. But yeah, it was an interesting one, that one.
Anyway, I think it's time to wind this podcast down. I'm rapidly running out of energy.
Well, it's been
nearly 1 in the morning.
I think I rang you at 8 o'clock, so I think it's been about 4 hours roughly.
Well, when we came back, I started recording, so that was whenever the fuck that was. That was 2 hours 44 minutes ago, and so.
Oh wow.
That's when I rang you back. That was about 10 o'clock, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
Just after 10, so we got all that stuff now about the various other shit that we talked about.
I didn't realise we were recording. I've just been talking. I didn't even realise.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent. I did say that I don't want to. I really do not. On record.
All I'll say is I've got you saying something about that many times, and so I'm going to just edit the fuck out. Okay, that was the end of the podcast. Absolute horror show, nightmare. I don't know what to say. If you've listened this far and you're listening to this now, then, I hope you can hear the pain in my voice because, trust me, I've listened to it more times than you, and I was there. Like I said, I was there when it happened. So you're nowhere near as insane as I am. So yeah, thanks for listening to that. There'll be better ones coming up, I swear.
I promise you there are better ones. We do get 3% better at least, as I've said. I've been Dan. He's been Kriss. We've been Word of the Horde. That's the YouTube channel. This has been That Famous Podcast. Just try and come back. We do get better.